Hey, welcome everybody. As you guys may be able to tell, my voice is completely shot today, has been for the last couple days, primarily due to the fact, as some of you guys may know, one of my psycho roommates physically assaulted me a couple nights ago, and afterwards, I was pretty much screaming to him if he ever lays hands on me again, that I was going to beat the living shit out of him. To kind of give you guys a story what happened, because people have been asking, I put it on my Facebook and some other things. Oh, by the way, the link to join is in the video description. I don't care about snipers right now because we can start over again. I like to get 10 people in here so I don't have to worry about it. So no matter who you are, what doesn't matter, come on in. I have cameraman on. I have the link open so I can kick people out before they even can probably snipe. But I am paying attention to the live feed as well. So come on in. I know people have been asking for this particular hangout, not just for the ass kicking, but for the street epistemology that I want to talk about, and some of the other things I've heard atheists say as of recently that I just thought was kind of comical, I guess, or at least interesting. So come on, pile in while I'm telling the story. I'll broadcast you as you come in. Hey, deconverted man, my friend. We'll get Jim Hill maybe in here. We'll get I don't know, anybody wants to come in. Chaosism. But I know there's another feed going on. I didn't want to step on Rachel. I told her I was going to be having this at 3:30, and she's about ending hers because I'd never step on Rachel's. She has awesome hangouts. But okay, so let's get into the story real quick. DM, you want to hear it? Because I know you do, right? DM, does your mic work?
Yeah, I read it.
Shit. Oh my God, damn. Yeah, loud. Okay. Hey, Wayne.
Am I still loud?
Hey, God. It's better. It's better. I think you just scared the shit out of me. I wasn't expecting that.
How about that? Deconverted man. That better?
Huh? Yeah, I like that. That's good. No, that's good. Oh, Chaosism is going to go call bingo at a nursing home. That's nice of you, Chaosism. I like that.
Chaosism is awesome.
Chaosism is awesome. I like him. We don't agree on we don't agree on everything per se, but I gotta tell you, he knows how to at least have a conversation.
Chaosism is always right as long as he's agreeing with me.
You know what? I've come to that conclusion. They don't have to be right as long as they're agreeing with me at this point.
No, they are right if they agree with me.
Well, they agree with me, right?
Well, then they're wrong. Unless they're with me, then they're right.
At best, they might be mistaken.
Maybe.
Because I'm never wrong. I just may not always be right.
No, if you turn left 3 times, then you're right.
Well, what happens if you just go straight?
I don't. Who cares?
All right. Let's get into my story because my voice is going to probably just go to shit.
Roommate tried to choke you.
Yeah, I tried to choke. Okay, so let me tell you about the story. As you guys may know, we have a psycho roommate, not Kevin, not John, not the other guys, but this guy, he's an older guy. He's well older than me, about like a decade, but he's in decent shape, and he, but he's being evicted because he just can't get along with everybody, and he has upstairs a bathroom that he thinks is his own. It's where I shower. It's where I will go up there and blow dry my hair because there's a mirror that opens up to, so I can actually see. And people like my voice seems fine. Really, I can think my voice sounds like crap right now, but thank you. So anyways, we were having some beers the other night. We were all having some fun except for him because he, keeps himself in his room. And I went to the bathroom, and I walked to the bathroom, and here's this guy. He's about like 4 inches taller than me, in just Speedos, just black Speedos. And he's just standing right outside the door. And I had beer in hand. I'm like, what the fuck are you looking at? And he just looked at me with these beady eyes and grabbed me by the throat. And I was like, oh, fuck no. So I dropped my beer. I literally put his arm, I put my hand underneath his, put my other hand on top, and I brought him down so I could put him in an arm lock, twisting his arm. And I was holding there calling for my other roommates because I didn't want to attack him because the sheriffs have already been open over like 6 times already, at least. They know this guy's nuts. And I said, look, he's left letters saying that he's threatening to call SWAT to come over or say that the landlord is pointing a gun at him. This is how psycho he is, right? And I'm like telling all the officers, look, if any of you are going to get a phone call like that, we don't want to get shot because this guy's, just mental. He thinks that he thinks that he was worth $60 million. He thinks that he has an IQ of 264. He thinks that he has a supermodel girlfriend, drives a BMW. The guy is like Von Helton. Literally, I live with Von Helton. And so we are just now on Monday going to file for default on the unlawful detainer, which means the sheriff's department has to come out and actually tack on the door that he's no longer to be able to be in property. And then 5 days later, they can come out and physically remove him. But I had told the sheriffs before, I said, look, if this guy touches me, I have every right to defend myself. And they're like, oh, yeah, absolutely. But the problem I ran into was after I had him in a submissive position, I was like, there's no other witnesses around. I cannot strike him. I cannot do anything else because even though I'd been drinking, I had presence of mind to go, okay, if I leave a mark on him, it's going to be his word against mine. And I didn't want that to happen, right? So they did finally come out after I let him up, and they were even saying, you know, hey, dude, if you choked him, that's assault. And the guy's like, what, did you see me do it? And I'm like, I did. I was right there. But anyways, you know, he definitely is probably not going to ever lay hands on me again because I just literally took his ass right down to the ground. But after he let me up, I was screaming at him. That's why my voice is shot. I was like, just motherfucker, you ever touch me again, you ever lay hands on me again, I will fucking knock your ass out or worse. I probably said I was going to kill him because I was kind of buzzed. And I was like, I'll fucking kill you, dude. I mean, there's certain things you don't do to people. And one of them is grab by the throat, right? Because that's not only an aggressive act, that's a death grip because it only takes 33 pounds of pressure to crush somebody's windpipe, right? And I'm not hoarse because he crushed that hard, but he was squeezing, but I'm hoarse because I was screaming at him. But anyways, that's my story as far as my psycho roommate. And by the way, I get one sec. Hey, Kevin, John, how psycho is this fucker upstairs?
What do you mean, how psycho?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
8, 7.
You only put him at an 8?
Well, it depends on whether he does something bizarre like
kill me.
Yeah, if he does something like that, we'll raise him from like a 4 to a 5.
Shit.
No, he could become a full blown. I've been reading some of the notorious criminally insane people.
Yeah.
Hey, Harry's on the phone. Harry.
Yeah, you're on air too. You're on air, by the way.
Harry, we're on the air.
Yeah.
So be careful what you say. Steve, there's a question on Steve's show. How crazy on a scale of 1 to 10 would you put Maniacal Mike? You know, Harry, in his 30 years, saw the craziest.
Yeah, but they won't be able to pick up Harry's on the phone. They won't be able to hear him.
Okay.
How delusional is he? Okay, he's not that far gone, but he is quite delusional. Okay, thanks, Harry. All right. Anyways, guys, get that conversation. But that was the another guy that lives here, his landlord. Yeah, no, a lot of people in the live chat. You know, like I said, I didn't want to hurt the guy, even though I mean, the guy had my car towed. I lost my car because of this guy, even though I wasn't probably going to drive it again. But it had stuff in there, but it wasn't registered or so on the street. So he called the police to have that removed. He's called the code violations. He's called in things for that. The guy has been nothing but a problem. But I still didn't want to hurt the guy, even though I was like, this guy fucking gets up or there's moves, I'm going to do something that I'm going to regret. But luckily I had presence of mind where, yes, sir. What?
On the physical thing, here he's boosting it up to an 8.
Oh, because he assaulted me. Now he's an 8. Yeah.
That brings it up.
That's called a simple assault, isn't it, Harry? Okay. Yeah. No, I got it. I'm agreeing with you. Okay. All right. Yeah. So anyways. But anyways, you got any questions on that? Or can we move on to other things? You guys want to know more detail about that? Wayne, anybody? DM? Am I by myself? Am I monologuing? I feel like Ronnie right now. I just talk for the sake of talking.
Sorry about that. I didn't know you were.
I knew that.
By the way, people come in. I need to fill this up to 10 people. It helps not to prevent sniping, or helps to prevent sniping. So
we were renting in a house that had a whole bunch of people, and this one guy would come in every now and then, like hi, and just be completely crazy. And I was washing dishes, and I happened to have this huge long butcher knife in my hand as I was washing, and this guy is like, I don't know, he's like the size of a basketball player, but he's got huge muscles everywhere, and I'm a short white guy. I've got nothing. So I'm like, yeah, I've got this big knife. So whatever you're on, go away.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to pull any weapon, right? I mean,
I was already holding it. I was watching that. I'm like, no, dude.
Right, but I don't want any weapons involved because the cops all around here. Like I said, we've had 6 different sheriffs over. They all know the situation. They all know it's volatile, and even though they all said you got to get rid of this guy. They said this guy has got to go. I told them, I said, I don't want to get shot because I'm defending myself because I don't know what the fuck this guy's capable of. Right?
Well, they finally, he went to jail because like everybody in the house pretty much pressed charges on him just because he was, being crazy.
Yeah, we had a temporary restraining order hearing, but the landlord couldn't make it because he had to work, and so we had to let that go. But we figured it doesn't matter. The UA will kick in first anyways, and I'll be escorted off the property before the TRO will turn into RO anyways.
Yeah, everyone knew. The thing is, it was weird because when he wasn't high, he was fine. He was, just a person, but, well, it's not that weird because when you're high, you're not you anymore.
Nah, I know people that get high and that are normal. This guy's just delusional, straight up delusional. And what's worse is he actually had a recliner delivered upstairs yesterday. I'm like, you're going to be out of here in 2 weeks. The sheriffs are coming to escort you off the property. They've been the ones telling us how to do this. Like, you have got to get this guy out of here. This is how you file it. This is how you do the unlawful detainer. You notify us after you get the unlawful detainer. So
I had one when I went to college. We had no on-campus dormitories. We just all got apartments, and they paired us up. So just willy-nilly, we got there, and they just said, "Oh, this person's your roommate, and this person's your roommate." So I'm from Colorado, and it's in Phoenix, and so I'm meeting people from places of the country that I just am unfamiliar with. So this guy's from LA, last name Rodriguez, and I swear to God, he was in a gang. Because one of the first things he did was get another girlfriend who is from LA too, and they stole his girlfriend's roommate's car. Like, literally. And just made me feel completely uncomfortable. I told his roommate about it, and his girlfriend's roommate, rather. I told her about the fact that they were stealing her car and this, that, and the other, and I ended up moving out myself just because it felt really uncomfortable because,
it's just one of those things where you have to, when you have other people involved, right? You obviously have to have a degree of civility, and everybody kind of has to get along. And, we like to occasionally drink here. I like to have my rum and Coke nights, obviously, which, by the way, we need soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I was literally just yelling at the top of my lungs at this guy. You can tell my voice was strained because I was so. I wasn't. So the problem was that I wasn't in fear because after I had him down the ground, he was not going anywhere. I was in no danger at that point. I realized I was in no danger, but I was mad. I was angry that he physically touched me, in an aggressive way, that he tried to choke me, right, for whatever reason. And it took my friend Kevin, he was intervening between them. And I'm like, no, I only called you up here to witness. I didn't need help. I was like, I wanted this guy. I said, motherfucker, put your hands on me again. Go ahead, grab my neck one more time. I will break your arm. And I would have broken his arm.
Like, I'm just wondering how did you hook up with this guy as your roommate? Because the roommates I've picked, I never had problems with like that.
That was landlord's decision to let him in months ago. So.
Oh, you guys have some crazy ass fucking roommates.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's everybody kind of has to get along, but
my roommate's pretty chill. Like, We will literally like we'll split the grocery bills. We'll split everything down the middle. And
Hey, Steve.
the other day we were sitting on the couch and we were just watching. I don't even remember what we were watching. I was half asleep, but we hadn't eaten all day, and she's like, "Hey, do you want a pizza?" And I was like, "Sounds good." But I have had one fucked up roommate. I will give you this. When I was at this camp for I think it was fat camp, to be completely honest. Cause like, yeah, they were all assholes. But this kid would literally get on the top bunk every night, knowing that he would fall off the fucking bed. And every night he'd fall off. And he would walk around and like wake everyone up, like, "Oh my god, a fucking ghost just pushed me off my bed." And for like a week straight, we had to deal with that. I'm just like, bro, it's not a ghost. Your clumsy ass just falls off the fucking bed.
Yeah, so look at weird beliefs. Speaking of which, though, okay, I want to move on a little bit from this because I don't know how far we can go on it. So, you guys may have been watching the post that is in the Great Debate community that I put a poll, and I'm really kind of say I'm astounded. I'm really astounded.
Yeah, it was a shit show.
It has kind of degenerated from the original thing, but atheists say the strangest things. I'm telling you, well, actually, he says he's agnostic now, but he's always been atheist as far as I know, but whatever. Everybody wants to call himself an agnostic. But I see people understanding what a fallacy is and what a not fallacy is. And my argument on the Great Debate community was basically a probabilistic argument, saying that if a group of people which are experts in the particular topic have a consensus, then it is probabilistically more likely for that to be true than not true. Not that it is true. Big difference. And right now, only 38% think that's a valid argument, 62% thinks not. And yet, the 62 people that have, the 62% that have voted no, the 37, I don't know who half these people are. These are new people to the GNC, so I don't even know who they are, what their education is. One I know is a young Earth creationist, which is Be That My Vision, Sharon.
Well, what was it? How did you say it again? If the majority of
okay, the argument goes like this, and you can use it for anything. You can use it for scientific consensus. You can use it for climate change. If 99% of the world's biologists accept the theory of evolution as a confirmed model that explains biodiversity, then it is probably more likely that that model explains biodiversity and is confirmed model.
Yeah.
Based upon the fact that these are experts in their field. It is not saying that theory of evolution is a fact, which is a different argument. Which
right, yeah, that was not right. You wouldn't want to make
that's not an invalid argument either. Yeah. But that's not my argument that I'm making. My argument literally is
only to the scientists, because then I worry that if you took that argument and said, okay, well, we have a whole bunch of biblical creationists, and 100% of them all think that this is true.
That's not the same thing. You have to have experts in a field examining some evidence that they've looked at.
Oh, but they are experts. They're experts in creationism.
But dude, there's 12 younger creationists in the world that have PhDs, I think, that write for everything.
Well, that's 100%.
Now.
I mean, I'm playing devil. I'm saying that you could, if you didn't word it carefully.
Right, but I have worded it very carefully.
Okay.
The argument is sound as it is written, that if you have a vast majority. Okay, look at it this way: if you were dying of a disease, and you went to 1 million doctors, 999,999 of them said take X to cure you. One doctor said take Y to cure you, and they're mutually exclusive. You take them both, you die. Which is more likely the better cure?
Yeah. Right. Well, if you're talking science, yeah, I would think that's good.
Right. Because that's a probabilistic argument.
Yeah, it's a it's a good probabilistic argument. If you're talking like general stuff, then it depends, because
Steve,
muddy waters.
Yeah, so
I have to see it. I didn't see the poll, so.
Steve, is this the hangout you wanted to do?
This is part of it. I have multiple things I want to talk about today if my voice holds up.
So when did we start this guy? Hold on a minute. Let me. We just started. Great.
Now, Ocean, you missed the part about my roommate, but you voted that this was a valid argument, right?
That what was a valid argument? That it was valid appeal to authority. Yeah, if you're appealing to people that are in of authority in the scholastic area that you're looking at.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I like that.
Right, and as long as you're not saying it is a fact because they are the authority,
right.
They have evidence to back it up.
So you're saying it's more likely because this is the
right, and
experts.
They have reviewed the evidence and they've had a chance to make a conclusion based on that.
Could we make an argument in the other way, like it's less?
If you're saying it's a fact because they're holding the position, then
that's fallacy.
That's the fallacy. Idea that they're infallible.
Right.
So then that would be appeal to authority in a way that is improper.
The people that are reading this and saying this is a fallacy are not understanding the argument. They're thinking that we're doing it in the form because Sybaris Hex had said it is the form of A, B, C, D says it's true, therefore X is true. It is not in that form. That is not the argument that I'm making.
Okay. Yeah. And Sybaris Hex would be correct if you were doing that, but it doesn't seem like
Of course he would. But that's the problem. He keeps straw manning and saying that's what the form is. And obviously some people believe it, but I don't know half these people. I think I know 3 names on the people that voted no.
Can we talk about the other thing as well?
In a minute.
So we're talking about is street epistemology guy coming in here, or what's the no?
I know who Cannibal Fresh is. I know Phosphorus Truth, Charlie SC.
There's a bunch of people, Steve, that want there to be a street epistemologist to go at me.
I know. I'm trying. Well, I have to find one.
It's like a thing apparently now.
What I'm going to do is because I asked Anthony Magdabosco.
How strong is your desire for that? Do you believe in that? There, you've just been street epistemologized.
What I asked him, and he said, go into the group that he invited me to. There's like 45,000 members, and see if somebody wants to be able to do an on-air hangout style, because they could be done in hangouts, and that's when I'm gonna actually post in there. I'll do that probably tonight, and I'll say I'm looking for a street epistemologist to run a street epistemology on a polytheist.
I think that here's the thing that I think is going to go badly. First, if it goes badly for the street epistemologist, people are going to say, well, it wasn't Anthony, and that's the main concern that I have about that. The other thing is that street epistemology seems to work well against religious claims where the person is making a high certainty claim.
I agree.
And that's not what I do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I've noted that as well. It's the stronger the belief, that I think the more SU kind of works. Does that make sense?
Right. Because what my position is that my religious position is rational, and it's therefore fine to explore.
Well,
I'm not making a truth claim necessarily or anything that's like, because I have faith, therefore it's true, like a lot of Christians do. Christians are weird in that respect. I don't think that's a common thing in religion.
Well, that's the thing about epistemology is a street epistemology is it could be on any belief. It doesn't necessarily have to be about your religion. It could be about what you think about karma. It could be about anything.
Sure, and it's kind of. I think the street epistemology is about whether or not someone knows it to be true, or about the degree of certainty. And when I'm approaching my religion as an exploration rather than anything based in certainty, I don't think street epistemology is going to get anywhere.
I don't know. I would have to listen to it.
We'll see. I mean, I'm happy to do it. I'm just saying
it would be interesting.
I think the problem is going to be. Because they're going to be like, well, if you don't think that it's true, then I don't really have anything. Like, if you don't think that it's true to the point where you're willing to make a 100% certainty claim, I don't really know what to do with you. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's probably going to happen.
I said, I've said it in the hangout that I had with him. Look, I have a belief that the universe is real. I take that as a brute fact. So in my epistemic framework, that is 100% certainty because it is an axiom. Right, so I don't have to then go qualify it by some other means. I can't use reason to have an axiom like that. That would be circular, right? I would have to find some non-inferential reason to assert that axiom is true, a non-didastic approach. And so I am fine with taking that axiomatically. I can build any epistemic framework I want from that. But how do you use SC to say, okay, let's determine whether your belief that the universe is real or not is cogent or rational? You can't do that because I'm not arguing it from rationality. Right? That would be.
I think that on top of that, I think there's a lot of weaknesses that SE has, in that it doesn't. It's not really a debate strategy. It's more of a. It's again. It's like I was saying earlier about my own beliefs. I think that SE is actually more of an exploration. And
you're already doing that. So
that they're doing it, right. I'm like they're trying to get. If I'm having a conversation with street epistemologists, I already realize what I think their goal is. So I'm not sure. I don't know where they would want to go. Right? Does that make sense to anybody?
Yeah,
else?
and the goal, but Anthony's, I think, goal has changed a little bit since he had that hangout. When I had first used the word doubt, he was using it a little differently, and I was hesitant to actually use the word doubt because of the problems of skepticism that Ozzy very, very poignantly pointed out. That you shouldn't be instilling doubt. We don't instill doubt. Questioning yourself is not the same as doubting, and I think that Anthony shouldn't use that choice of words. And he might be modifying that because the whole goal of SC, he thought, was to give the gift of doubt. And I'm like, I don't see that as a gift, and I don't see why doubt should be a problem. Oh, hey, this guy wanted to join us, so he's okay.
Well, it's kind of like it modifies Socratic questioning. It is
modified. Yeah, exactly. It is. Hey, Crash Bandicoot. Sorry, if he comes in. Well, I'm sniping everybody out, but he actually says he wanted to come in from live chat, but since he left, I'm going to snipe him first.
Okay.
I'm sniping anybody I don't know before. See, what happens is it actually shows before they actually even get in, and I can snipe them before they even know what's going on. So, but he wanted to come in and say that he was going to argue evolution, but since he dropped out, I don't want to take the chance.
Oh, well, let's not get in those weeds just yet.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I want to also talk about the other thing about whether or not an atheist can be religious.
I want to talk about that as well. So let's move on to that. Sorry, Crash. We're going to have to wait another time for the whole evolution thing.
Well, I suppose an atheist could have spiritual beliefs somewhere. They could believe in ghosts, like Heretic Woman.
They could. Well,
here's the thing. Can I make a little intro on this, Steve?
Yeah, you tell the story behind it because I agree. I'm on your boat on this one.
So I mean, I don't want to get into like the names of it because I don't think that it's.
You don't have to give the names. Just give the story behind it.
I don't think he's going to come in and defend his position or whatever.
No, Adam Smasher's a coward. That's what I'm saying. He's an atheist that says the strangest things.
Okay, so he held the position that, what was the post? Like this specific post. Fucking Google Plus won't show me things.
Oh, this is I Love Jesus, really? Oh, it is I Love Jesus. Hey, man, you've been around in ages. What's that, Ocean?
Yeah. Let me find that post real quick, and I'll.
Right. You haven't been around in a very long time, I love Jesus, LJ. What brings you to my hangout? It's been a very long time since you've been around. You have to unmute. I love Jesus. You have 3 seconds. All right, bye-bye. I have no time for this.
Don't play that game.
He said he got to adjust his phone.
I think
I don't care.
The post in question has been buried on that page.
Well, just do it in a nutshell, because the argument was it was Adam Smasher Idol, who's in my opinion no different from a creationist. He's an atheist that has no common sense, no rationality, no logic, no reason. He just says some of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. And the argument was basically, he said that atheist.
He said non-religious people don't have to be atheists, but atheists are definitely non-religious.
Right.
And that was strange to me.
Yeah.
Because I think that if it's more likely to me that someone is an atheist if they're not religious, but less likely that someone is going to be like, it's because there's so many religions that are atheistic.
Right.
And in the conversation that was on the post where you like tagged me, a lot of people were talking about the definition of religion. Well, I'm going to make the same appeal to authority problem that you were doing about talking about. It's because
wait. Citing a peer review paper, citing a text, citing authority is all fallacy according to
right, of course. But I'm just going to appeal to the general scholastic study of religion, which I have a minor in religion. I studied it briefly, and I'm going to quote my professor verbatim that there is no scholastically accepted definition of religion. It's frustrating, but that's just kind of the way that it is.
That might be true. No, I can accept that.
And the reason why that is because every definition that people have been putting forward about religion, as far as, because like a definition is trying to track how a word is used, and religion is used to cover a myriad of different things. So Buddhism is considered a religion, for example, but it doesn't necessarily have any theistic claims a lot of times. Like there's definitely sects of Buddhism that are atheistic. Like, they don't have a God claim. And they're even like, sometimes even argue against a God. Taoism is often considered a philosophy, but by many is considered religious.
So it doesn't have Taoism too, aren't they not?
So when we're talking about religion, as far as a study of religion, things that are included in the study of religion because they are considered religions by humanity sometimes are atheistic. So you can be, if you're part of this religion and only part of that religion, you're an atheist, but you're still religious.
Right.
Right. So
yeah. They're two different things.
Yeah. It's like religion.
Okay.
The definition of religion that I've often used, because I think it's more accurate, is going to be a system, someone's spiritual system. And that can be organized or it can be individual. Some definitions of religion include organized, but you still have individual, like solitary practitioners of several religions. One example that I brought up was atheist pagans that participate in ritual, participate in group. They're a part of organizations. Sometimes they're leaders in organizations, but they don't believe in gods.
Mm-hmm.
But they will still make offerings to gods, and they'll still do ritualistic prayer. And this is because they're doing this as their explanation of being a therapeutic practice. But they're atheists.
That doesn't make sense. Like, how does that make
religious? I don't know what to call that other than religious. And
I have no problem with the term religion. Here's the thing: regardless of how you want to define atheism, it doesn't really matter. Whether you want to do it as a propositional state, whether you want to do it as a psychological state, it only refers to God or gods. Period. It has nothing to do with anything else. You cannot add anything to it, because then you start getting into atheism plus. You start getting into things like new atheism. That's not what atheism means anywhere.
New atheism is also kind of a religion in and of itself.
Yeah, it can be. I made that argument, and it's not an unfair argument to make, unfortunately.
Right, because I think that once you, the thing is that once you accept, and this is what I think why a lot of people argue against this, is because they don't want new atheism to be considered a religion, because they can't then just say religion is evil.
Right.
Because religion is more complicated than Christianity.
But that's the problem with new atheism, isn't it? Though, I mean, they're going down that path, but
right. They're getting doxastic.
Very doxastic. Yeah, of course.
And once you have a doxastic system, you start to flirt with the idea of going beyond being a philosophy and into being a religion.
But Adam Smasher's argument was you cannot, if you're an atheist, you cannot be religious, and that is complete and utter bullshit.
Right. As there's several examples that are not, like there's several religions that exist that are included in the scholastic study of religion that are atheistic. I even brought up Christian atheism. Mm-hmm. People that go to church, that are part of community, that are very involved in their church to the point of ranking up, essentially, and they're atheist, but they practice Christianity for cultural reasons. And what do you call all of that other than being religious?
But you know who argues against that? I've actually had Christians tell me there's no such thing as Christian atheist. They are just as much fundamentally flawed as the Adam Smasher.
Well, according to Christians, humanity is fundamentally flawed.
True.
The idea of a Christian saying that someone's not a Christian because they're flawed is silly to me.
Yeah,
the whole fucking basis of their religion.
Wait a you gotta go according to the Bible if you want to find out what a Christian is. Now, there's no such thing as a Christian atheist.
because if you're an atheist, you can't qualify as a Christian.
Right.
Well,
except for those who identify as Christian atheists. If you have a Christian atheist who's like, well, I don't really consider the Bible to be the system of authority because it claims that there's a God, then there's still going to be a religious person that just happened to be an atheist and they call themselves a Christian atheist.
I know who pipe dreams is.
It holds no bearings because the definition
you just don't like
of a
them being called Christians. That has nothing to do with them being atheist or religious.
By the Bible. Now you can't just make up your own definition of what a Christian is according to what you think it is.
But here's the thing: you seem to have a misunderstanding.
I don't care what the Bible says.
Ocean, hang on, my voice is shot. So.
Well, that's the book that you use if you want to find out what an actual Christian is.
Okay, Mike, here's the
apply that definition. Hold on, Steve will handle this.
No, because I want to explain something to him.
All right, sure, go for it.
Okay. Pipe, I can't speak over you. You're on a phone and you're going to get drowned out. Listen to me very carefully. A Christian atheist is not modifying Christian, it's modifying atheist. Okay, so it's not a type of Christian, it is a type of atheist. The modifier is the word before the noun. Okay, so atheist is the noun, the adjective is Christian, not the other way around. So a Christian atheist is a subset of atheist, not a subset of Christianity. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but it's still stupid.
Well, you don't have to think it's. I'm okay with that.
It doesn't matter.
But it's still not. It's not like it's nonsensical. They definitely do exist.
It just shows how deluded atheists are.
Great.
Okay.
If this just means that you think that they're deluded, then fine, you can say they're deluded, but that doesn't change anything. Like when somebody was telling me in the conversation about where I was bringing up pagan atheists. That there's people that practice ritual and everything, they just happen to be atheists, like they don't believe in gods, they actually reject gods and consider the deities that they're practicing ritual to be archetypes that are that they appeal to for therapeutic purposes and look to as examples in narrative. That's something that's definitely being atheist and still being religious. Now someone was saying, well, that's hypocritical. Well, it doesn't matter if it's hypocritical, they believe it. It's something that they practice and they believe, and it's religious. Being hypocritical isn't something fucking new. We have Christianity, we have Islam. Those are both hypocritical religions to me, but they're still religions in spite of being hypocritical.
All right, so I'm not disagreeing with what you guys are saying, but I still don't see how someone could be atheist and still believe in a certain type of religion. But
because
are you
not believing in
God claim? Religions are not required to have a deity. Most of them do, but they're not required to.
True.
So atheism is only against the proposition of the God's existence. That's it. You cannot throw all this.
I was having a conversation with a pagan it was a couple of weeks ago, where he was saying that he actively does not believe in the gods.
Christian, do we know
part of our group? Does not believe in the gods, but he still practices.
Yeah, if your mic doesn't work, and I'll give you 3 seconds, and then I have to remove you because I don't know who the hell these people are. Sorry.
Wasn't he? Hold on. Wasn't he on here during the fallacy game show?
Oh, was he? Oh, yeah, he was. Oh, sorry, I already removed him.
Oh well.
Sorry, dude. Now, I have no choice. If you come in, you need to unmute right away and stay who you are, because literally I'll be booting you out if I don't know who you are. So sorry about that, Christian. Let me know you before you come in. It'd be easier. What are you saying, Matt?
So that kind of makes certain sense because my cousin actually is an atheist, but somewhat believes in some of the Buddhist beliefs. So basically, he's an atheist, but he believes in certain religion.
Well, most Buddhists don't believe that there's a God. Buddha's not actually a God per se.
Right.
Just achieved enlightenment, which doesn't necessarily mean that became a God or anything.
Hold on. Believe in an afterlife.
Buddha is a demonic being, man. If you look up Buddha, you start seeing this serpent. Now,
Pipe.
Okay.
I don't want to go down some battery shit.
Pipe.
I'm gonna school y'all real quick.
No,
Buddhism,
don't school anything. You can just stop schooling right now.
Pipe.
that's what the Bible.
Okay, Pipe.
It talks about the
Pipe.
serpent.
Pipe. Let me ask you a question.
What is false enlightenment that you're getting from Hinduism and Buddhism? They all got the serpent behind them. If you do a Google search right now on Buddhism,
Pipe, I'm not interested. I'm straight up. I'm not interested in that kind of just.
Hey, can I? Pipe, let me ask you.
We don't have those kinds of just bullshit.
it's not. If you research it, unless you want to be ignorant.
I would rather be ignorant, or have you think I'm ignorant.
I can't decide whether or not I hate this guy or love this guy, Steve.
Hang on. Let me ask him a question. Let me ask him a question. Pipe, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, man?
All right, so let me ask you a question, okay? Do you believe that all religions... I'm going to ask you this. Do you believe that all religions but your religion is wrong?
I believe Christianity is right and everything else is wrong.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He is one of those type of people, guys.
Yeah, I know. I know Pipe is.
Yeah, no, dude. That's not surprising.
Yeah, that's not a big secret. I mean, that's...
For that.
Oh, no. He's
Pipe is
a jerk.
Now,
is
if you
Captain Crunch?
Well, Pipe is on a fucking phone, and because he doesn't realize nobody can hear him.
Steve, did this guy used to be called Captain Crunch?
Yes.
This is the guy I yelled at like 2 years ago.
Yes. I told you I know who he is. He's Captain Crunch. He's a fanatic.
No, there was all sorts of yelling between me and this guy one time. It was fucking fantastic.
Oh, all right.
He's,
so
he's
Pipe
he's
Dream.
basically harmless, though.
Let me ask you this.
That's why I gave him a link.
go ahead, man, shoot for the moon.
So, in your belief, are you telling me that all religions have something to, unless it's Christianity, all religions have to do with the devil?
Oh, don't get brought into a debate.
No. I want to hear this from him.
He's a standard Christian. There's nothing special about him. Move on.
Yo, Ocean, can I speak for a second?
No.
There's a spirit behind everything.
Why do I want to let you speak?
Behind every belief, there's a spirit behind it. That's why the Bible makes a distinction between a spirit and a Holy Spirit, between a God with a small g and a God with a big G. The big G means God is the creator. The small G's are from the devil. It's Satan. He's deceiving y'all.
Hey, Steve, can I introduce a new fallacy? Is appeal to capitalization.
Ocean.
Appeal to capitalization.
Hang on, Ocean. Hang on, Pipe. Let me ask you this. Prove to me that the word of God is the Bible. Hang on, no, Ocean.
You don't have the wrong hangout somewhere? Like, what the fuck? Why are we getting into like this?
I don't know. This is what I'm saying. I don't like this type of argumentation because it's just a fucking waste of everybody's time. These are basal bullshit fucking discussions. I don't like them. They're a waste of the audience's time. They're a waste of my time. They're a waste of the interlocutor's time.
Stop being a party pooper, man.
I'm a party pooper. No, dude. I'd rather have somebody.
And let them ask me that
You
question.
gotta get a goddamn fucking microphone that works or a computer that works.
I'm sorry, Steve,
Yeah.
but my cell phone is all I got.
Pipe,
I can't blame him because he's only got a cell phone.
Steve, I think this hangout needs a purge.
What, Ocean?
I said I think this hangout needs a purge.
I'm gonna go with Steve, and
Yeah,
whoever
I
he
get it.
says he doesn't want to hang out, then he doesn't want to hang out. So I'm just gonna mute until he says I can talk again.
You can talk. I never said you couldn't talk.
Got demons in them. That's why he's agnostic. That's why he's an anti-theist, man. They don't want to.
Wait. Who's an anti-theist?
Hang on. Wait, did you just say that I have demons in me? Because
I don't know who he's asking. Hang on, Pipe. Who's an anti-theist?
I'm talking to you, Steve, man. Can you hear?
I'm an anti-theist?
Yo, do I need to repeat myself?
Yes, please.
You're an anti-theist, Steve. You hate God.
I hate God.
Yo,
Man,
Hang
hey,
on.
now you can't talk. I want to handle this. So I'm an anti-theist. Can you give me evidence of where I've ever said anything against theism?
you don't like God.
Can you give me evidence that I've ever said anything against God or theism?
I got faith, but
Pipe, answer my question, please. You accused me of something of being an anti-theist. Show me evidence that I've ever said anything against God or theism, please.
I can't.
Then will you retract what you just said?
I retract until I find some more evidence.
That's fine.
Okay,
I can accept
no.
that.
Steve, Steve, I think he was directing that towards me, and he got
No,
confused
he was
with
directing
you.
to me. I asked him.
I'm talking to Steve. I've been listening to Steve for quite a while.
That guy is
Yeah,
one of
Captain
the
Crunch and I go way back,
biggest
Matt.
atheists anytime.
I've been
Trust me, I know a lot of people on G+. Not more than just two. I have thousands of people who know who I am, and I know who a lot of them are.
Okay, Pipe, if it
been my other account, bread and butter. I'm
Steve,
Miss Bread and Butter.
Okay, Pipe, I'm the one that said something against God. I am not an anti-theist either, and nor does that have to do with anything about demons.
Why are you letting these two go?
You know,
I don't know. Matt's mic is driving me nuts too. It's popping every fucking 2 seconds.
You want to ask me something, so speak up. Don't let Steve censor you.
How am I censoring him? I don't think you know what that word means either.
Yo, go ahead.
Hang on, wait a minute. Hang on, no, he's not.
Don't speak.
But his mic is popping, and it's very annoying. People are having a hard time listening.
Steve.
I can hold it to me, that way it doesn't pop. Okay.
Purge.
Okay, hang on, let me say this.
Now, let Matt go for a minute here.
Okay, no, I'm not an anti-theist, Pipe. Oh god, it's echoing again. There we go. That's better. No, I'm not an anti-theist, I'm agnostic, and I don't know where you get the fact that demons come involved with someone that doesn't necessarily believe in a god, but you are incorrect on that. I'm sorry to tell you that, but your belief in demons or whatever that's called that you want to say it, I don't have any demons inside of me, neither does Steve, unless, you know, Steve is playing with the fucking Ouija board.
Well, I have played with Ouija boards, but no.
If you don't believe in God, that means you have a demonic spirit inside of you.
All right, so let me ask you.
No!
That's not true.
Wait, hang on, Steve, I don't mean to step on you, but wait, you're telling me that I have a demonic spirit with me because I don't believe in God.
Yeah. That's what it's a spirit of disbelief. That's what you have inside of you.
I apologize.
That's not a
Christian atheism.
Hang on, that's not a man. I don't think you know what a spirit is because that's not a thing. Man, disbelief is not a thing. Because if anybody knows me, especially Steve, I've even came on this hangout before and said that I used to be a Christian. I just have things that's brought to light that do not make me believe in that anymore. That's not a spirit of disbelief. That's just common fucking sense.
Now you're eating. Now it says you're eating the microphone.
What qualifies you as a Christian?
I don't want to play that no true Christian game. So, Pipe, let me ask you. Pipe, let me ask you.
Atheists in here like, oh, I was Catholic. I went to church every week. You know, I paid my offerings. I did this and I did that, and they thought there was a Christian.
Okay, Pipe. I don't want to play. I don't want to play the no true Christian game.
Religious.
So tell me, Pipe.
Come on, see. Let me finish my work.
No, you don't. You don't get to finish a point like that. I don't want to play the no true Christian game because all that leads into confusion. So, Pipe, listen to me very carefully. As an agnostic, please tell me how I hate God. I'm kind of curious.
I told you I was gonna wait until I get some evidence, so I'm waiting on that.
No, that was for the anti-theism. Now I want to know why I hate God. There's a difference between mesotheism and anti-theism. You accused me of being anti-theist. You said you weigh in the evidence. Are you now also waiting for evidence for mesotheism as well?
Now, Steve, what evidence do you need to know that there's a God that created everything?
You're not answering my question with a question. I'm going to ask it again. You accused me of anti-theism. You retracted that.
Steve, I'm waiting for more evidence. Now, if I don't have
for the anti-theism, are you waiting for more evidence for the mesotheism as well?
Steve, what you want me to do? If I don't got no evidence right now, you're gonna have to wait for it.
I just want you to say you're waiting for more evidence for the mesotheism claim as well.
I need to talk and say something.
Oh, for fuck's sake, he doesn't understand shit what I'm saying here. This is like, let me speak English again. Pipe, you said you're waiting for evidence for me of the anti-theism claim. You've also accused me of hating God, which is not anti-theism. That is mesotheism. Are you now waiting for evidence for that as well?
Yeah, I'm going to still wait on that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. And by the way, welcome people from Rachel's feed. Rachel had a really nice hangout today. I enjoy listening to her hangouts. You know, and she gave me a spanner, so I feel special. But anyways, hang on, Pipe. Jade, I'm going to get to you last because you talk longer. Jade, what do you got to Jake, what do you got to add? Or somebody, Jay, what do you got to add? Jay, my friend.
Oh.
Hey, buddy.
Oh. Hey, how's it going?
So what you got to add to this, and I'll let Jade jump in real quick.
just let Jade. I'm recovering from beer from last night, so my brain's.
Oh, you're not at work?
Oh, I'm at work, but I have an easy job.
Because usually he's like at work when he does it. Oh, I'm not recovering from beer because I'm drinking beer right now, but I've only got 3. We bought 2 24 packs last night. I had 1 beer, and there's 3 left. Well, no, wait, there's 1 left now because I've just had 2. But seriously, they left me 3. I bought 2 24 packs of beer or whatever the fuck they are, and everybody drank them but me.
They weren't expensive, were they?
No, these are yeah. This is APA 7% beer. Sierra Nevada, man. This is not cheap shit.
Oh, torpedo.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I splurged and I said, okay, I'm going to treat tonight. I didn't get any of the beers because I didn't feel like drinking. I had 1 beer, and all my roommates drank, but I was going to get shit out of it.
I can't drink that shit anymore. Too many bad memories. Too many.
Yeah,
self-induced. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, as for pipe dream, I don't really even know what he's talking about or what he's even waiting for. So I'll go ahead, Jade. I'm gonna put
go ahead, Jade. Jade, my love. By the way, I have a dumb question for you before you go on about this. Can I ask you a dumb question?
Go for it. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you wonderfully.
Okay, good.
Where are you in that video of that Darwin's Greatest Hits has? I don't see you.
No, I'm not in it. I don't think.
But he gave you credit.
No, he did?
Yeah, he said Jade's in there, and I'm like, what the fuck is Jade in here?
I'm gonna have to go.
It has Freddie.
What?
It has Freddie, but he doesn't give Freddie attribution.
Oh, maybe
he gives you attribution, but not Freddie. But I didn't see you anywhere in there, and I was like, you saw it, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. And if I do sound a little odd, it's because I bit my tongue. So
okay. Well,
but I'll have to go through it slowly. I've seen it a couple times. It's fantastic. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, he says you're in it, and it's even in the thing that you're in there, but I couldn't see you, and I was like, oh my god, what the hell? I don't
know if he used my current picture or like the old one that I put up, or maybe he's saying it's me and it's Freddie. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking possibly.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's got Freddie as me. Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Sarah, my love, my darling, since you have a spanner, can you go find Darwin's Greatest Hits last video, which was called The Great Debate, where he took Ronnie and Dragnod and me. I played Peter O'Toole. I'm playing Peter O'Toole.
I know, that was great.
Yeah, it was fucking awesome. I know. And can you link it in the live chat so people can head over to GDC's channel and watch it? Mm-hmm. It's like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's great. Thank you, Sarah, my love.
It is fantastic. And that one shot of Drag with his glasses askew,
I love that. That made
just absolutely brilliant.
Even though I'm in it like 3 times. My favorite scene was when he looks with the glasses, just like twist. I love that.
It's great. So
yeah, I think this is Darwin's best work.
It is. It's just brilliant. I'm waiting for the rest of the movie.
Is he going to do more, you think?
I don't know. I hope he does. That's actually, it would be fun to take the usual suspects here and, plop them into different movies, But anyway, so yeah, I don't really know what Pipe Dream is on about. I haven't listened for that long, but if he's still waiting to gather more evidence about you,
I think he just got confused.
He can't come to...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. What was that? I missed it.
I think he got confused on what Steve was trying to tell him, and that's what I jumped in. I was just like, wait, Steve doesn't hate God. He never claimed to hate God. And I said something earlier to him, and he just got confused, and I think he didn't understand what Steve was asking him. That was the problem.
That could be. But no, Steve doesn't hate God. To begin with, you have to... To begin with, you have to believe in God.
No, wait up. Based on Steve, based on what Steve be saying, based on previous conversations, I come to the conclusion that he has a hate towards God. That's my belief.
Pipe.
Wait.
Hang on, Pipe. He's never once stated he hates God. He's an agnostic, such as myself. He does not. Hang on, Pipe. Before you just keep rambling on, let me break it down for you, okay? An agnostic is someone who does not believe in either way that there is a God or there is not a God. They believe that they basically want proof of either or. He doesn't hate God. I've talked to Steve for about 2 years now, and the amount of time that I've known him, I have never once heard him even come close to saying he hates God. Wrong. Now, if you can come to light to prove...
Yo, youngin, young Matt. Now the thing is, you don't need to say I hate somebody to hate them. Hate can be done through action. Hate can be done through different ways. Like you don't have to. You can hate somebody by shooting them. You don't gotta say I hate you. All you gotta do is just shoot them.
But what I want you to prove. Hang on. I want you to prove to me, and Steve wants you to prove to him as well, where he has come or where he has shown that he has hated God, because out of all the time that I have known him, he has never done such a thing. So you are getting it twisted.
I believe in God. He knows that. He knows that God is real, but he just denies.
You cannot say that. You cannot say.
I know God is real.
Don't tell other people what they believe or don't believe.
Exactly.
Well, no, let him speak. Go ahead.
Steve likes to brag about all this science and everything. If you knew anything about science, you know that science is just a tool to examine this natural world. Now, what is?
Yeah, great. I believe you. I agree with that. So
create nothing. Science can't create. Science
show me that I know that God exists. Go ahead.
I can't.
Then why are you making claims you can't? Then why are you making claims you can't back up?
Because the words that you said in previous conversations, I can't.
Wait. Shooting down bad arguments and calling out people's bullshit is not hatred for God. It's hatred It's hatred for shitty arguments.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, Marcus, welcome, buddy. I'm glad you can join us.
Okay, Pipe, listen. Okay. You cannot make a claim against somebody else unless you have definitive proof this person has said or done.
Well, at least some evidence. This is the third time you've accused me of something a pipe that you haven't had the evidence to back it up. Why is that?
Hey, now, Steve, didn't I tell you I was going to wait, right?
You just accused me again of something. Matt,
Stevie, can you listen for a sec? Buddy, can you listen?
Yes, but you just literally did it again.
I'm going to be patient, Steve. I'm going to wait for you to incriminate yourself. So I'm gonna wait until
that would be evidence.
So stop asking me, man.
God damn it! The next person I have to talk over, I'm ejecting. Okay, stop interrupting. My voice is shot. I cannot have a conversation with Pipe with Matt. You interjecting every 2 seconds. Pipe, you just said that I hate God. I asked you for evidence. You said you don't have any. That's the third time now you've made an accusation that you've not been able to support. Why is that?
Because I don't have. Because I don't got no evidence right now.
Then why are you making accusations if you cannot support them with evidence?
Because I know that's what's in your heart.
You know what's in my. All right, so show me the mechanism by which you know that's what's in my heart.
I'm gonna have to pick up some documents from a previous conversation of yours from a while back ago.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, take your time.
Right now, it's gonna take me some time to filter out all that information from previous conversations.
All right, so I'll tell you what. I'll do one better. I will ask every one of my audience, the thousands of people that will watch this video eventually. I'll ask every single one of them right now. Have any of them ever heard me say that I hate God?
No.
You don't got to hate God. You don't have to say hate.
Has any of them ever heard, Jane included, has any of you ever heard me say that I know God exists?
No.
No.
You gotta say I know God exists to know that God exists.
Well, then how do you know that I know this? How are you, Matt, stop it. How are you overcoming your epistemic limit to say that you know what I know? You have an ability to have a way to reach into my head. By what mechanism are you going into my brain? Just tell me what I know.
You know what? Because when somebody provides proof to a person, it's when the person denies it. When they deny it vehemently, whatever how you want to say it, when a person keeps on denying some obvious evidence, that's when you know that there's something that's going on. You know, a lot of cognitive dissonance going on.
Cognitive dissonance. Can you tell me what cognitive dissonance means, the way you're using it?
Man, it's when you...
you're using the term. How are you using it? Because I don't think you're using it the way I use it. So, yes,
yeah, that's when somebody tells you something and you don't like what you hear, So you try to deny it.
That's not cognitive dissonance.
It's when you I know cognitive dissonance is.
Obviously, you don't. Cognitive dissonance is where you held two conflicting positions in your head of some kind because you're compartmentalizing.
Yeah, well, I said it the same way, but just in different words.
Not really. I don't think you did. But yeah, go ahead, Matt. But I'd really like to have a dialogue with him, Matt.
Sorry, you can go ahead. I'll wait. I just want to let know that I have a question.
Because the more people that talk, the less I can hear him because he's on an Android.
Like I can wait. Like I said, I want to ask him a question that goes along with this.
All right, go ahead, Pipe. What were you saying? So you're telling my audience that you can really literally reach into my head and obtain knowledge from there of what I know, even though I've made no claim to that ever of the years I've been on YouTube that I've ever said anything of the sort. And by the way, I love our Rachel Oates, right? But you gotta admit, my hangouts, they're entertaining, right? Live feed, live feed's going nuts. We got like 100 people going crazy. Yeah.
Oops.
Well, I don't know, man. Well, yo, Matt, what you got to say, man?
No, I'm gonna wait till you actually
go ahead,
answer.
Matt. I'll let you go ahead, Matt. Go ahead. He can't answer that question, so go ahead.
All right. So my question to Pipe. All right, Pipe. You want my question? Here's this. So do you say that I hate God because I no longer believe?
It could be a possibility. I don't know the reason why you don't believe right now.
Because the brought to life of evidence against Christianity itself is enough to disbelieve in something. Just because you don't believe in something hang on. Just because you do not believe in something does not mean you hate it. I don't personally believe in Islamic beliefs, but my best friend's Islamic, and I don't hate Islamic beliefs. I don't believe in them. Just because you don't believe in something does not make you hate it. And I know for a fact Steve never said or has done anything to prove that he hates God. So you're making false accusations and you cannot back them up.
Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but bearing false witness, isn't that a sin considered to be in most Christianity?
Yes, it's a very serious sin.
Now, Matt, why did you stop believing in Christianity?
Because, like I just said, there are a lot of things that were brought to light that make Christianity a contradiction to itself. So therefore, I'm not going to believe something that literally puts lies on itself.
So can you tell me what's the contradiction?
I can let him off 100 at least, and we could go all night about why Christianity contradicts itself. But my question to you, and you still have not answered me, is why... No, hang on. Before I answer your question, it's kind of getting annoying that you're answering questions with another question. So answer my question first on why you're making accusations and answer Steve's question, because it's not making any logic sense to me that you're saying that someone hates something because they don't believe in it.
Okay, real quick, if I can interject, Pipe. While Matt is talking, if you talk, all you hear is this mumbling sound. Nobody can hear you. You have to wait till Matt is done before you speak. Okay, because if not, nobody can hear you. It's just you're on Android and your audio goes to zero.
Yeah, man, I know how atheists don't have morals. So, Steve, if you can you moderate?
Okay, another claim that has nothing to do with Matt just said.
Steve, he's not going to defend his. He's just going to keep answering questions with questions. Like, we both have just asked him this because he's basically saying that because you and I are an agnostic, we hate God. And I know for a fact you've never said that. And I have never once said I hated God.
Hey, yo, tell me what's the contradiction in the Bible? What's the contradiction, man?
Well,
I will tell you my contradictions after you answer my question.
Well, that's going down the weeds. I don't want to go into the contradictions. That's a weed thing.
So here's
Pipe. So you just... Pipe,
you afraid of too.
Pipe, you just made another claim that I don't think you can support. You said atheists cannot be moral, correct?
I said based on your atheist morals, y'all won't hold.
I'm not an atheist for one, but again,
Steve, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, now listen. Stop acting like you're 3 years old. Don't know how to wait till other people finish talking.
You're on a fucking Android and nobody can hear you because you keep talking when people are talking, Pipe. Do you not understand that? Wait for people to be finished.
Now I understand why Ocean yelled at him a couple years ago.
Yeah, Ocean. Now go ahead, Mike, make your argument, but then you better address what I'm asking you because you made a claim that atheists cannot be moral. I want to know why you backed that from. But go ahead.
Be moral? I said based on your atheist morals, y'all won't moderate this right.
Atheist morals. Okay, what are atheist morals as opposed to Christian morals?
I always get it. Somebody always interrupt me, and every time I talk to Matt, he always want to deflect the question. Now I'm gonna ask Matt.
Oh my God! You have not answered a single question that has been asked to you. So
you asked a question in response to me. I asked him a question in response to you, Matt. Do you notice that?
Hang on, Pipe. Put yourself on mute so you can exactly hear what I'm saying. Put yourself on mute until I'm done asking you this question. Okay? And then I want you to answer my question, and if Steve allows me, I will answer your question. But first, before anything, you're going to answer the two questions that have been asked to you.
Hey man, you think you right? You so smart. You so smart, right?
Yeah, I actually am pretty smart because if Steve asked me a question, I'm going to answer his question before I ask him a question. That's common sense.
Shoot. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Put yourself on mute so you can hear me because your audio is affecting everything.
Go ahead, speak up.
And now, I am going to ask you this again. How is it that if someone doesn't believe in something, they automatically hate it?
You're not. It's when somebody keeps on denying it.
What?
When somebody has evidence of something, they keep on denying it. It's to the point where.
What am I denying, real quick? You're not making sense here. Who's denying what?
Based on previous conversations, yeah, you do deny God. Like you do.
I deny God.
Yeah.
I want you to clarify this: as that I reject His existence, or I don't believe that I don't have a God belief.
How do you reject his existence?
Okay, that would make me an atheist.
He doesn't know.
That would that not make me an atheist? If somebody rejects God's existence, if they think God, if they say I believe God does not exist, that makes them an atheist. Does it not?
I don't think he understands the difference between agnostic and atheist.
No, clearly not. But Pipe does not.
Of course, I know.
No, you really don't. But
agnostics, they're like, I don't know. There may be or maybe not a God, but I don't have enough evidence right now. The atheist is like, no, there ain't no God. You know, everything came from the Big Bang and abiogenesis.
That has nothing to do with atheism.
No. That is not atheism.
I'm being.
Yeah.
I'm having some humor in it. That's how.
Okay.
All right. So Pipe. Have I ever, if to reject God, it means I believe God does not exist, correct?
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, if that's true, that would make me an atheist, correct?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Okay, not in a sense, by literal definition of what atheism is.
There's different ways of rejecting God. Now, you don't got to say, I reject God. All you got to do is reject evidence for God.
Which God?
Any God. The God of the Bible.
Steve, can I ask him another question?
Yeah, man.
Sure, I guess. I mean.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this, Pipe. It's going to be a very, very, very simple question, and I'm going to break it down for you.
Go ahead, say something. Okay.
So since I am agnostic, are you saying that I'm an atheist?
Depending on what you say.
Because, again, Steve broke it down for you. Agnostic and atheist are two different things. Yeah, agnostic just simply doesn't believe either or. They don't believe God exists. They don't believe God doesn't exist. Therefore, they're in the middle. An atheist flat out rejects any belief in God. You're getting mixed up with a whole lot of things. So my question is to you, how is it that us being agnostic, where do you get the idea that we hate God?
I didn't say all agnostics hate God.
But you did say that Steve hates God, which makes no sense, because he's an agnostic, which means he doesn't believe or not believe in God.
Now, the thing is, I've been listening to Steve for a long time now, so I know kind of where Steve stands on this type of subject. I haven't heard you talk. This is my first time talking to you or even hearing you talk, so I don't know your whole position.
Okay.
I don't know what Steve previously said in older conversations.
Okay, here is my position. I am agnostic. I don't believe in God, and I don't believe he doesn't exist. I am in the middle.
Sounds like agnostic. Yeah, that sounds like agnostic to me.
All right, so what would it take to believe?
My position.
And by the way, hang on. Can I clarify something so we don't go down this definition? Hang on, Pipes. God damn it. When I say hang on, there's a reason. Before we go down this definitional thing, because I have a lot of people that watch my videos, and a lot of people are atheists and some are not. So I want to clarify for the people in the live chat, because we have 100 people plus watching, whatever. The way we're using the term atheism is normally we are using it in the Great Debate community as the way the academics use it. Atheism is not defined as a lack of belief in philosophy. It is defined as the active disbelief or the belief that God does not exist. You don't have to accept that. I don't care. But that when I have a hangout, when I use that word atheism, I make it very clear I'm using the word atheism as somebody who believes God does not exist and does not just lack a belief. So I want to make that very clear. You can believe anything you want, even if any definition you want, but I use the formal definition, the academic definition is what you find in philosophy. That is how I use the word. So I don't want anybody to be accused of equivocation here. Okay, yeah, you don't have to use it the same way. That's how I use it, because that's the correct way to do it in philosophy.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I know most people do, but there are people in the live feed that are saying, "Oh, atheism is just lack of belief," and that's not it. So,
no, that's probably my fault. I'm not making myself clear enough because my microphone is popping out in and out.
That's horrible.
All right, tell me if this is better.
Good.
This is better.
He's coming in stronger, but it's still going to be coming in and out, I think.
It's still popping. Yeah.
Okay. So
Matt, one way to help not come in and out, something that Pipe Dream really needs to do as well, is put on a pair of headphones.
I actually do have headphones in.
Yeah.
It's just my.
So I really want to make clear to the live feed, because people are talking about it right now, that people are saying where I'm wrong, but trust me. Go to the Wikipedia. We have a Wikipedia article on this very thing about atheism, the difference between a colloquial atheist and the difference between a formal atheist. We use formal atheism in my hangout because that's how it's used in textbooks and academics. Anybody who ever reads a study, anything on philosophy will understand that atheism is defined as the active belief that God does not exist. You don't have to accept that as an atheist, but I don't care. That's
Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy also has a really good article about the confusion of use on that and why the use of lack of belief isn't useful in a philosophy discussion. And in a debate setting, you're most akin to a philosophy discussion. So in a debate setting, it works best to the conversation to use the philosophy definitions. That doesn't mean that anybody's going to be fucking it doesn't change anything about the positions really. You can still be an agnostic. If you're an agnostic atheist, and philosophically you're an agnostic, you're still defending the same position. You're just using a different word set.
Absolutely, but here's the problem, Motion.
But it's more informative.
I hate to go down this rabbit hole, but the problem is that certain people listen to only certain atheists on the internet, friends of ours. I mean, I love Aaron, right? Aaron's a great friend of our community, friend of mine. Aaron's philosophically wrong on this. We all know Aaron's
a really
wrong.
dumb friend of yours, I'm aware.
What's that? Matt, you're making too much noise, Matt. What, Ocean?
I said he's a really dumb friend of yours, I'm aware.
No, Aaron's very smart. But I mean, Aaron.
No. Aaron he's a smart cookie when it comes to science.
Yeah, he's a smart cookie, but he's on my Facebook all the time. But Aaron tells people that atheism is just a lack of belief, and that's completely, utterly, unequivocally, demonstrably wrong.
It's just like he says feminism is just the belief that women are equal, right? That's just both of those words have much more complicated.
Sure, but see, we can demonstrate that he's wrong. Stanford Encyclopedia, Oxford Encyclopedia. I have 12 different sources that. But anyways, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But anybody who's telling me that I'm using the word incorrectly, they're straight up wrong, and they can come in here anytime they want. But it's just ridiculous that they don't understand how these things are used.
I think is funny is often because pointing out the feminism thing. Aaron Ra is one of the few people that's actually consistent on this, where he's like dictionary definition of atheism, dictionary definition of feminism. But I'll see a lot of the same people who say that atheism is definitionally just the lack of a belief in God will then talk about the complexity of feminism and its usage. And that doesn't, it's hilarious to me It's like that is directly hypocritical. It's the word usage of atheism and feminism are both very, very complex usages.
I completely agree with you, but that's what the problem is. They simplify these things to an extreme, right?
It becomes oversimplified to the point of hampering the conversation.
Yeah, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is not an easy read, and by the way, it's written by mostly atheists. It's not an easy read, but I do take it as a very good authoritative source that I agree with. Doesn't mean it necessarily is right, but I agree with the SEP on most things that I've seen. And the use of atheism, according to the SEP, is more than just a lack of belief. It rejects Anthony Fleur's 1972 article on the presumption of atheism, right? And it also says, by the way, God Demon 13, if you read the SEP, go read the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, it puts it out very specifically, and Aaron is wrong on this because it's called an etymological fallacy. The A in atheism does not mean without. It specifically, explicitly says, do not think of A as without. It explicitly says A means not as in the negation of the proposition. And this is spelled out in the SEP.
Yeah, it's a negation, right?
Right.
So
you don't have to agree with it, but you need to find a source that at least can present an argument equal to SEP.
But it's, again, I don't
just saying it's not true does not matter.
People choose this hill to die on. I mean, we get back in
because
this
they don't understand the argument.
You had like a million times on your, because there's always some fucking idiot in the side chat that's screaming about how you're using the wrong definition of atheism, and that's the reason why this conversation keeps happening on this channel. But it's like, honestly, whoever's saying that in the side chat, refer to the long history of Steve's channel of having this conversation fucking over and over again, and also refer to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, that is a free internet access scholastic encyclopedia on this issue, and you can read it and be like, oh, okay, because it has a very detailed account, all the reasons why it's used in one way and not the other, and that atheism is in fact a negation. It's fine that atheism is in fact a negation in a philosophical setting. It doesn't mean that you can't just call yourself an atheist by the colloquial term. It just means that in a philosophy setting, you need to use philosophy terms. It's like the use of the word theory in a scientific sense and a legal sense. Theory in a legal sense is correct in the courtroom. It's not correct in a science lab.
Yeah, and that's why
theory that's used in a science lab is not correct in a courtroom.
Here's the thing, like I said, and by the way, the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy is in concordance with the Stanford Encyclopedia. So I don't know why MP thinks that they're not. They're very much in accordance to each other. But here's the thing: how you use a word, I don't care. What bothers me is when people tell me that the way I'm using it is not definitional. There is no right or wrong definition. There's useful and not useful. Okay? That's it. And so I'm using it in a useful context of the way the Stanford Encyclopedia uses it. If you disagree with that, that's fine. You don't have to use that definition. But to say that that's not the definition according to SEP, that is demonstrably false. I think everybody in here agrees about that, right? Because that is what the SEP says, and the IEP, and they do have a concordance with each other. So... All right, so moving on to
position. This doesn't mean God is real or some shit. Like atheists defend the colloquial definition, like if it's something that they sacrifice, suddenly God poofs into existence and Christianity is true.
Yeah,
like,
that's a dumb hill to die on. People don't understand.
Strange that they die on that hill. It's because it means nothing to the conversation.
But here's the problem: there are some atheists that are so ingrained in what they hear from YouTube University, the Google Foo, that they don't actually go research the stuff themselves, right? So somebody asked a fair question in live chat. They said, I don't believe in God. Am I a theist? No, you're a non-theist. There's two complementary sets in a universal set. The universal set is a combination of all theists and all non-theists. If you do not have a God belief, you are a non-theist. But non-theist does not necessarily have to equate to atheism. In philosophy, it does not.
Theist and not a theist would be the true dichotomy.
Which is not theist.
Like someone who is an atheist or an agnostic are both not theist.
Right.
But
agnostics are not atheists.
Right. So an agnostics and theists are both not atheists.
Correct.
So I get so confused by people like this is a hill that we shouldn't be spending so much fucking time on. I don't know why we're always on this hill.
You ever see Mr. Grimm blocking one side? I don't deal with Mr. Grimm. I don't believe it. I don't want to deal with anybody who peddles cancer.
Wait, is he here? Well, okay, not in the stream, but in the chat.
I've already kicked him out. He was in the live chat.
He's been removed.
Yeah. I have a rule. If you're quacked with death, you don't get a say in my live chat. Period.
Yeah, fair enough. He's a little nuts.
Anybody can disagree with me, but you're peddler of death. You tell people not to go get chemotherapy. You don't get a platform. Period.
Steve, if I can actually answer this idiot so he'll stop blowing fucking hangouts. Pipe, have you actually come up with a steady answer to the question that I asked you, so that way I can talk to you about the contradiction?
Why are we getting back onto this fucking? I left.
No, because I want him. I want him to stop flooding the fucking hangouts because that's what he's doing.
He has been quiet for the past 20. He's been quiet for the past 10 minutes.
Read the chat.
I don't care about the fucking chat. If he wants to sit there and pipe away in the chat, then fine. He may pipe away in the chat all he fucking wants to. But I'm honestly sick of the conversation between you two because it's like, standard butthurt Christian versus standard butthurt agnostic. It's tiring.
Okay, save it for 9 o'clock. The Wayne stream. I suppose that would be a better place.
Yeah, Midnight. Just send me the link to his channel and I'll take care of that.
The link is in the chat. Wayne just posted it.
I'll join it whenever after this. But for now, yeah, you're right. This is fucking.
Yeah. See, here's the problem we run into. MP is still on this kick. He's the only person who doesn't understand this. He thinks atheist is only defined as a lack of belief, even though I give him citations showing he was wrong. We're not talking about atheism. We're talking about ist. Okay, because in the philosophical definitions, the relationship between ism, which is relating to a propositional state, corresponds to somebody who actually accepts the belief of that proposition, which is an ist. So there's an ist-ism relationship. MP still doesn't understand this, that in formal philosophy, atheist is someone who accepts atheism, which is defined to be somebody who believes God does not exist. Now, there is a position out there, obviously, lack of belief, but that is one of multiple definitions that is used colloquially and not in formal academics. Why MP still does not understand this is beyond me. It's been explained to him by Alex Malpass, it's explained to him by Ozzy, explained to him by countless people. But when he says something like atheist is defined only as a lack of belief, that is completely and utterly wrong. I don't know why this is so confusing to people. So,
more to the point, why not just have a conversation based upon the convention being used at the time?
Well, I mean, I only wanted to. I just want to be able to define my terms properly and use them in the Hangout the way I use them.
Right. I mean,
you doesn't want to use them that way. That's up to them. But
right. If I'm having a conversation with you, I know how you use the term. I understand that, so we're gonna be able to have a conversation.
Here's the frustration that I have is that people will refuse to accept that this is a convention, and then, just attack it as being some kind of like theist conspiracy theory, which is like what I generally hear on this. And I can't, like, most of the people that I know that are frustrated with atheists about this usage are atheists.
Yeah.
And
but let me ask you real quick.
What's up?
Is this true or not true? And I'll ask the board here. Formally speaking, we're talking in academics. We're talking taught in university level. Is atheism a positive assertion that God does not exist? An expression?
Yes.
Propositionally, the thing that one God is false, or that ontologically no gods exist in the universe? Are those all synonymous of how the term atheism is used academically?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody in this Hangout disagree with that?
No, I don't.
You don't? No. Jade, you're erudite. Do you disagree with that?
I'm erudite and I'm chewing on a piece of pizza, but no, I don't disagree with that.
Okay. Does anybody? So nobody in this Hangout disagrees with that. Now, if you're in the outside feed and you disagree with that, I would love to have a discussion with
this motherfucker.
But bring the evidence. Show me what sources you're using.
I would also just like to point out that because this argument keeps going on and on, I spent some time in Google Books researching the definition of atheism as far back as Samuel Johnson's dictionary. The first real dictionary of the English language was by Samuel Johnson. And there is no one atheism.
Correct.
Or atheist. There are different definitions. And sometimes I've seen in a dictionary that atheism will be defined one way, and then atheist will be defined in a different way. It can be defined as a lack of belief or a disbelief, for one thing. Those are two separate things. Whether one lacks a belief or whether one disbelieves. Disbelief is active. Lack of belief is passive. Through the history of the English language, at least as far as I went through Samuel Johnson's dictionaries. I mean, I'm sure someone could go back even further. But as far back as I went, I see different definitions. So for someone to claim that in English there has to be one single definition of that term is incorrect. There is also, as Steve has been pointing out, there are also colloquial uses of that term differ with the philosophical uses of that term. Yeah, we run into that in a lot of things. We run into that in science, in other disciplines, including philosophy, where and you would think multiple personality would kind of get this because he is an attorney. Terms that are used in law that we use colloquially and
Wait,
have
Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
So, but that's all I wanted to say is it honestly doesn't really make that much difference in a lot of cases what definition you're using, as long as you understand that other people have a different definition. And if you're going to engage in a conversation, and this is one of the things I point out, some of you may have seen my list of but if I'm going to have a debate with someone, if someone wants to debate me, I typed out a list of things that are necessary for the debate. And one is that terms have to be agreed upon before the debate, because I'm perfectly fine, discussing a subject with someone when we have a different understanding of what the terms mean, as long as we agree on what definitions we're going to use beforehand, and we make those clear. So, as long as you understand what someone means by that, and you realize that language is always changing, always, every single day it changes.
Well, I mean, God damn it, your mic is killing my ears, dude.
Matt, mute yourself whenever you throw your mic.
Mute when you're not talking. Here's the thing: if somebody in the live chat who's disagreeing wants to come in and argue with us, I'll be happy to do it. But they have to make sure they understand what's being said. What is being said, and I'd like them to answer in the live feed, is that I am claiming, without question, that in formal academics, atheism is the active belief that God does not exist. It's not just a lack of belief. Anybody who says otherwise needs to show me evidence to the contrary, because nobody ever has. Not one.
Jack, Steve?
Sure.
Okay. I've got my cowboy gun pulled out. I wanted to go to the conversation we were having before it got interrupted from Matt and Pipe throwing mud at each other, which was the can atheists be religious as well question. Is there anybody in the room that disagrees with what was said earlier, that there can be religions that are atheistic, such as Buddhism and some forms of paganism?
Two different things.
Or even Christian atheism.
Yes, I agree. And I know Christian atheists.
Yep. No, I'm agreeing with you, Ocean, by the way. When I say no, I actually agree with you.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that, because we addressed that for a little while and then it kind of got...
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Something. Aren't non-theistic religions like Buddhism, aren't they more rooted in philosophy than ritual and religion like Christianity?
Yeah,
sometimes, but there's a lot of them that include ritual, a lot of ritual.
Here's the thing: the word atheistic just means somebody obviously means a religion that doesn't require God. Atheistic and atheism are two different things, clearly, right?
I think he's making a different distinction, Steve.
I get that. I get that.
If the religion doesn't have a God belief, isn't it more akin to a philosophy, like say Jesusism, which is considered
it can be. It can be. You can make an argument for that.
Taoism is often argued as being a philosophy rather than a religion, despite the fact that Taoists often consider themselves religious. But Buddhism most famously involves lots of ritual, beliefs regarding afterlife, spirituality, and such. And there's still a lot of ritual associated with it, but they often, again, there's exceptions, but often they don't have a God belief. Same with pagans who will participate in ritual, participate in leadership, are actively invested in the narratives surrounding the religion, but don't but consider the gods archetypes instead of actual entities, which is often accused of something like I'm often accused of doing that I'm actually an atheist. I'm not. I'm a polytheist, but there are those people that I actually practice with who are atheists, but also pagans and consider themselves religious.
It's still getting annoying that the live feed just parrots things. They don't. They parrot things. They don't go validate if it's true or not. This is what annoys me about certain atheists. I just put in the live chat there what SEP actually says. Okay, accept it, don't accept it. But the A in atheism must be understood as negation instead of absence, as not instead of without. Show me evidence to the contrary of the live chat. Show me that is wrong. I quoted a very, very gold standard of philosophy. Show me that is incorrect. Because Aaron Ra doesn't take the place of the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
And the A in atheism, an A is a prefix, doesn't always mean against.
Right.
A in English often comes, often comes to us through French, but it means either ab or ad in Latin. So it could mean towards, and it could mean away from.
Yeah, a front, a back, adjacent.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes it could just have nothing to do with anything, like in an apple. An apple is not an anti-pole. It depends on where the word came from.
Like Adam is an anti-dam.
Yeah, exactly. And Adam is anti-dam, yeah.
But amoral is anti-moral, though.
No, actually,
I think immoral is just
without. No, it's not moral,
right? Is it not
amoral? Is without. No, amoral is without morals. A rock is amoral.
Okay,
we can be immoral, but we cannot be amoral.
I use moral anti-realism when describing my position, but
that's true.
So if something is moral, then amoral is not moral without morality.
No. Inanimate objects are.
No, I think he's right on the use of moral.
Well, hang on. An inanimate object is neither moral or immoral. They are amoral.
Right.
A rock is amoral. I cannot be amoral because I have the ability to determine the difference between the two. I am either moral or immoral, not amoral.
Oh, I see.
All right, but there is a difference between moral and amoral. Moral is one thing, and things that are not moral, what would you categorize them as?
Rocks.
Not moral, right?
No.
Even leave out the A. If something is moral, and then we're saying it's not moral, we would say it's amoral. It's not moral.
No, I disagree because not means a negation.
Right.
It's a negation of moral. To say amoral means
immoral.
Without morals. So, for example, you might call Adolf Hitler as being not moral because he is without morals.
All right. Well, maybe this is simplified.
What word would you use? Would be amoral.
What word would you use if something is moral? What word would you use to say something is not moral without morality? Is not moral. Exactly. Okay. So that's exactly what I'm saying.
Excuse me.
We just said amoral.
No, I did not. I said M with an I is what I said.
Hold on.
But it makes a difference.
This is a bad analogy because you're taking one of the few things that's more complicated than religion, which is morality, and then trying to put it forward as an analogy.
But that's true. That's true.
I'm explaining it very simply. Look,
hold on, but let Steve explain because Steve is really good at this.
A rock in myself, let's say I'm a bad person. A rock in myself would be both lacking morality, but in the case of the rock, it is amoral because it has no ability to be moral. I am immoral because I am the not proposition of moral. I am the opposite. I'm the negation. That's the difference. Even though by having that, by being immoral, I'm without morals. But there's a different epistemic reason why there's a difference between amorality and immorality.
What's the dichotomy between? All right, so I'm asking you, what's the dichotomy between moral? Moral, what would you call the opposite of moral?
Immoral would be not moral.
So so amoral would be a subset of immoral? That can't be true. It can't be true. You said a rock is amoral, which
amorals.
Go ahead.
No, okay. Same thing with this is where you can confuse like with the atheism, theism. Theism, right, is one position. Atheism is a negation of that theism, but atheism falls under non-theism. Non-theism would be the complementary set of the universal set of theism and not theism, part of you being the universal set. That's how that would work. Same thing here.
Now, if a person does not have the capacity to tell the difference between right and wrong, for example, they can't tell the difference between what is moral and what is immoral.
That'd be amoral.
That would be amoral. And some people who are, psychopaths, sociopaths, cannot tell the difference. So they are amoral. That doesn't mean they're good people. It just means they're amoral.
Right. Just like all rocks are non-theist, right? You don't have to have the ability to have a cognitive ability to come to a conclusion or to have what's called executive decision-making abilities to formulate where you're going to be in a category, theological and cognitive aside. But if you're not a theist, whatever's not a theist, the complementary category part of the universal set is not theist, right? So a rock would be a not theist. It doesn't take any kind of executive decision-making abilities or cognitive thought to put a rock into non-theism. Do you agree? Same thing with a moral.
Babies, for example, are amoral.
Right.
Neutral. Somebody brought up that.
And these people arguing that atheism is non-theism do not understand word one of what we're saying. All they're doing is parroting that paradigm, which logically is a valid paradigm. You could make logically a dichotomy such that atheism is dichotomous with theism. However, that's not how it's done in philosophy. What's happening is they're basically taking a disjunctive syllogism and running with it. Because in a dichotomy, you have theism and not theism. Okay, because that's a strict binary dichotomy, right? Even all dichotomies are binary. But if you want to add a disjunctive syllogism, now you have P versus Q, or P or Q. So now you have theism versus atheism, right? Not atheism, you're a theist. If you're not a theist, you're an atheist. Okay, that's a false false disjunctive syllogism in philosophy. That's the Matt Slick fallacy. They're literally doing the Matt Slick fallacy, because what Matt Slick does is says P or Q, not P equals Q, therefore you have P or not P, not P, therefore P. Which is tautology, because now you're just saying P or therefore P. Right?
It makes no fucking sense.
Right. That's the problem. But again, the people in the live chat, some of the newer people, they just are not conceptualizing this. They're literally doing the Matt Slick fallacy and they don't realize it.
Yeah. But words are difficult. And I don't mean that, I don't say that to be facetious. I mean that, the way we carry on casual conversation every day has us misusing words all the time. And yet we manage to create a conversation. So sometimes when you want to narrow things down to what a specific thing means, like evolution, you have to be clear what you mean. And for some people, this is difficult. I had a roommate once that I had a lot of trouble getting this through to her. In certain circumstances, there are specific meanings to words. And to have a reasoned conversation beyond these meanings, just for the conversation. You don't have to agree on the meanings for the rest of your life. You can believe whatever you want to believe. But if you want to have a conversation, you need to agree on meanings. And you need to understand that other people use words differently. And difficult concept for some people. It really is.
I actually wrote something the other day where I think it was a comment on one of these YouTube videos that I watched, and I used the word evolution, and I specifically specified not evolution as in biology, but I meant it in a broader sense, as in the way the planet evolved as from a framework of cosmology and the lithosphere and the atmosphere and the aquasphere and the biosphere as a unit,
which is fine.
So
you're allowed to do that.
And you're allowed to do that for the conversation.
Yes.
But that evolution, the meaning of evolution changes versus just evolution as a biological, scientific theory. So I mean,
and that's why I always, when I'm talking about the biological theory of evolution, I either spell it all out or use a capital E to make sure they understand. Because I'm sure a lot of people here at some time in their life have probably seen the video, The Evolution of Dance, which is a pretty funny video. But yeah, guess what? Dance evolved. Fashion has evolved. Evolution in that sense just simply means a change.
Language has evolved, ironically.
Language evolves all the time.
Yeah, and you're perfectly allowed to do that. Look at an equivocation fallacy is when I'm using the same word in the same argument two different ways. And the same argument is the key there. If I'm using the word evolution and I'm talking about biology and we're talking about the theory of evolution, which is modern evolutionary synthesis combined with descent with modification, that is fine. That's how I use the word evolution. However, if I specifically say I am now going to use this word evolution in a more colloquial sense, such as stellar evolution, chemical evolution,
evolution of dance.
The evolution of dance. That is perfectly fine to do that. You're allowed to do that.
But who's arguing that you couldn't do that? Is it the evolutionary deniers are saying you can't use the word in a different context?
It's more like they try to, Steve, you'll have to help me with the word. It conflate everything together. Because evolution, they'll say, well, we can't prove chemical evolution, which is what some are calling biological evolution, which, by the way, is not chemical evolution, for goodness sakes. That's something else altogether. That's how that's normally the way scientists use the term chemical evolution, is how the various different elements came about. But they will call a biogenesis chemical evolution. And they will try to conflate that with the biological theory of evolution and say, you see, evolution.
Right. And that's exactly what I was talking about. I was talking about that broader sense of the evolution of the planet as a whole and the chemistry of stars and all that. I was like, we're learning more about that as it relates to abiogenesis, because abiogenesis is what's responsible for bringing on life, not necessarily evolution of biology, which we have lots of facts and lots of evidence for, and there's literally, if you're arguing with that's like saying you're arguing with gravity, although there's people that do that too. But anyway.
Yeah.
Hold on, one thing I want to say, because my phone cut off at a real inopportune time. But number one, I define moral as having a moral sense, and I'm defining amoral as lacking a moral sense. And you guys simply disagree with that, right?
No, actually, I wouldn't. I would say that amoral is lacking a moral sense.
Okay,
but
so
if
I don't know, because when I mentioned that
sense,
before, it was like you guys were saying no to those propositions.
I think we may have misunderstood. I don't know if everyone agrees with me here.
But amoral would be lacking the moral sense, but not having the ability to have a moral sense along with it.
I think that would be.
I'm sorry, I said step away for a second. What did I miss?
No, I get what you mean. Yeah,
immoral is kind of like, okay, you could be moral, you just choose. It's more like a choice to not be moral. Like
so we have an agreement.
Yeah. So my biggest example would be, let's look at what happened with the loan industry. Right before Obama became president, and all these people in banking making all these loans, knowing damn well that the people weren't going to be able to keep up with them. That was immoral. They knew they were doing something wrong.
I agree.
They had the ability to distinguish right from wrong. They knew what they were doing was wrong, but they did it anyway because they made a lot of money. Those people were immoral. Now, if you did something
agree with that.
You couldn't.
Would that would fall into the category of lacking a moral sense, right? That action would lack a moral sense.
No, I wouldn't lack a moral sense because they know what they're doing. They have a moral sense. It would lack the implementation of a moral sense.
It would lack a moral compass.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask MP, while you're in here. MP.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I want to demonstrate something, because you're one of my staunchest critics, even though that you were like 99% in agreement with me, and then all in the last couple of days you've kind of like backslid.
Well, hold on. Let me explain where I agree, because I agree with most of the things that you're saying. I do agree with the definition of the word atheism. I do agree. Most, if not all, the philosophical material definitely define atheism as the belief that gods do not exist. I will testify to that. You are 100% correct. When you look through the literature, it is uniformly defined in that way. There are some places that define it as a lack of belief. Atheism, that is 100% true, but that's really a minority. The majority of places, when you look at the philosophical sources, define it as you were saying. That's true. The word atheist, we have a contention because some of the sources that you even put forward define it as a lack of belief. And I'm not saying that it is the one and only definition, but when you make this, when you say, and you guys have made that clear that it is not the one and only definition. But when you say that in philosophy, atheist is defined in this way in the consensus, I don't believe that's the case. And even when you look through the literature, just as many sources say one definition as the other. And I would even argue that more sources would define it as a lack of belief. But even without me making a fallacy of, because I don't read every
I can tell you're wrong on that.
But when you look at AEP and you look at IEP and you look at some of the papers put forth by academics, there is no doubt that they define atheist in these academic papers as a lack of belief. Some do define it as the belief that gods don't exist.
There's about 2 papers out there that do it this way. One is found in the Oxford Handbook of Atheism, and the other one is Anthony Flue's paper from 1972, both of which I've read. Okay, so what you're saying is absolutely unequivocally wrong. Papers by themselves do not determine the academic standard of how things are utilized in academics. Okay, they are making.
So how are you determining a standard?
Let me tell you. The other paper that's in the Oxford Handbook of Atheism, which by the way is a opinion book. It's not a descriptive book. It's an opinion book. It doesn't describe anything. The academic standards that you use for textbooks all have atheism as the belief that God does not exist. Every single one of them. I've looked at countless numbers of them, and you know I have. Okay.
I'm not saying you're wrong about atheism. I've looked at a lot of stuff too, but I'm talking about atheists specifically because when I even put this in the GDC and said show me sources, it was almost nonsense because nobody can really show me sources about atheists. So I'm asking because I gave academic sources that said the exact opposite.
No, you did not.
And now you guys are trying to, it seems like you guys are trying to coach this argument. So let's just do this. You're saying that this word is used in philosophy this way. How are you coming to that conclusion?
By citing academic sources.
And I have cited academic sources.
No, you did it. What you've
cited, I have.
No, you've cited one. You cited opinion piece from the Oxford Handbook of Psychology.
Maybe I can clear this up.
But I don't even want to go down this path. I really want to go to. I want to ask MP a question.
I want to
in the weeds
make a statement that will hopefully clear it up.
All right, but then I got to make my statement.
With the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, one of the things that it does is it talks about why the lack-theist definition is not useful in a discussion about philosophy.
True.
Or a discussion within philosophy.
That's a very good article on that.
If you want to make, if the academic source that I think would convince Steve is an argument as to why the lack-theist definition is more useful in a philosophy setting, because I can't think of a reason why it would be more useful.
I couldn't
to muddy the conversation.
All right, let's table that.
Well, then you need to read Sepp because Sepp does make the argument about one being a proposition on a psychological state of belief and one being a proposition on a source of belief or context.
Correct,
of
but neither of those.
So it does make the argument that yes, and it actually even says in there that you can do it.
Neither of those are the lack of belief that Anthony Flew is talking about. Neither of those positions, whether you define it as propositionally or psychologically, neither of those have anything to do with what we're talking about. Not at all.
No, he was saying that he just said Sepp didn't make the argument. I'm letting him know Sepp did make the distinction between the two words, and that was what they said. It's clearly inside there. Well, just go to Sepp. Go to Sepp. Google, search atheism, and just read the actual article.
I've read that.
It does make that distinction.
Here. I've read that page more than anybody here. Okay, and I've already
someone posted in the side chat.
Yeah. I've already said numerous times there is a different distinction between the psychological state and the propositional one. That's not the argument that we're talking about, those two different things.
Well, that's what Ocean just brought up. That's why I'm saying read it, and it'll make the distinction of why the two words may not have the same meaning.
That's not the lack-theist position. That's not the lack of belief position. That's a totally different thing than what Ocean is talking about here.
Well, read it for yourself, Ocean.
Okay. I'll give you the link right now. But here's a question to you. MP, as much as we disagree, have you ever, anytime in any video, have seen me say that a person who subscribes to a non-philosophical, non-formal academic position is not an atheist.
No, never. I've never heard you say that.
Okay, then correct the live feed who's saying that I am saying that they're not an atheist if they don't subscribe to the philosophical position, because that is never an argument that I've ever said. That's something. Correct them on that.
Well, I'm going to say, I will correct. Steve has never said that, but I think Steve is incorrect by saying this is the academic definition of atheist, because I just think that's fundamentally correct. And unfortunately, if you get a whole bunch of philosophers in a room, they wouldn't even be able to really come to the conclusion that they were in a room. That's like the joke.
But I would agree.
They wouldn't be able to come to the conclusion in a room.
But the fact of the matter is that I was even saying that I wasn't even going to make this argument anymore, because I do, and that's why it's hard, because with Steve, 99, like when Steve does the logic and everything, 99% of the stuff that he says is absolutely true, and I can't deny that. I can't deny his definition for atheism, because I've researched it. That is definitely true. Our only contention is the word atheist, which I think he's bolstering a little bit. But if you want to use it in whatever context you want to use it, and I'm using it in what context I'm using it, I feel it's more useful for me. You feel it's more useful for you. That's fine.
How you're using it individually. Yeah. But see, I can make the argument very easily, and Alex Malpass makes it very easily. Look at atheism. An atheist is somebody who follows atheism. There's the ist-ism relationship there.
I know, and I can find you. Well, you know what I have to do when I get to my computer? I'll send you papers that say, yes, this, even though there's this distinction, this is the reason why. Because one, for instance, when you're talking about isms like communism, capitalism, those are sets of belief. You can't have a system of belief about non-belief.
No, MP, you're making a mistake here. Ism in philosophy means towards a proposition.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not talking about communism. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about towards a proposition.
What I'm saying is that go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
Since it is more generally acceptable, as you may agree, in philosophy, in academics, that atheism is defined propositionally by psychological, right? Instead of a psychological state, it's more often defined propositionally. Would you agree with that?
With atheism, yes, I would agree. Yes, you're right.
And because of that, then an atheist is somebody who follows atheism. So by direct relationship, if an atheist is defined with the ist-ism relationship, that ism is the belief that God does not exist, an atheist is one who holds atheism to be true, or that God does not exist. Simple as that.
I would say generally you're right, except for two things. Number one, when the words were first defined back in 15, I forgot. We had the gentleman who actually was a language expert. He was in one of the off-air chats, and he actually brought up a paper that made a distinction and said atheist actually at the beginning was defined, as Steve is saying, the belief that gods do not exist, and atheism was defined as the lack of belief in gods or gods. And the reason why there was a change between the two words is because atheism, people were subscribing to a system of beliefs, atheism, but if you had no beliefs to subscribe to, then that made no sense. So the words made like this switch in which atheism was a system of beliefs, so we believe there's no God, and allow people to adhere to a system of beliefs, because it would be silly to say our system of beliefs is that we have no beliefs. That is nonsensical. That's why the word made the adjustment in the definition. But atheist is still going through this transition. Again, my contention is that you keep saying that this is a position of philosophy. I disagree with that. Maybe you have better evidence, but as of right now, it seems like both definitions are used interchangeably within the literature.
Well, I think you're absolutely unequivocally wrong. They're not interchangeably used in literature. Matter of fact, this was the whole point of Anthony Flou's presumption of atheism being rejected unanimously almost by every single philosopher back in 1972 for that very reason. How do you explain that? If they're used coextensively with each other, such that you can use them in a bivalent situation where one or the other means exactly the same thing, then why is it in 1972 when he came up with his presumptions of atheism, it was overwhelmingly denied by the academic community?
Well, I don't know what happened in 1972. If you had probably talked about gravity waves or cell phones in 1972, it may have been denied too. But we're talking about, something that's 40 years later, and people are making changes and understanding the way language is used. And language changed. We all agree language evolved. That may have been true back in 1972,
These are not language
1872 or 1700. But I'm saying right now, as I see it, if you go to IEP, which is your source,
yes,
and type in atheism, literally the first sentence defines atheist as a lack of belief, and then goes on to define atheism as you just said. And then Sepp, which doesn't define the term atheist, defines atheism as you said, but then explains the confusion between atheist and atheism, and how you can have two definitions between global, this. So I am agreeing with you up to this particular point. And maybe it's a point of contention that you could maybe show something, but as of right now, I don't believe the claim that you're making.
IEP does not define it the way you're saying it. You're misreading it for the 15,000th time. All atheists, under any definition, in the broadest spectrum of the word, lack a belief. That is what IEP is saying. IEP, 2 paragraphs down, specifically gives what an atheist is in the formal definition.
Well, can you read the first paragraph?
No, I'm not doing this again with you.
Because if you read the first paragraph, it says it says. So I don't know what you're trying to say.
Atheists lack a belief. There's nobody arguing against that. That is a fundamental fact, regardless of any definition you have. Which has already been explained to you, MP. All atheists lack a belief. Not all atheists assert God does not exist. Only the philosophical atheists assert God does not exist, because that is what philosophical atheism means. Do you grasp this now?
I lack a belief and believe in the non-existence, right?
No, I definitely agree with the atheism part.
That is why it's saying what it is.
I know. I've read it. I've read it multiple times.
Good. Oh, so, God, I mean, I don't know if I can explain the same thing.
You are explaining it, but you're making this claim that this is the way it is in philosophy, and I don't believe that's true. And you're not. But now you've actually made this challenge that if you don't believe my claim is true, prove that it's false. Well, that's just like a theist saying, prove to me God doesn't exist.
I've given you sources, and you even said, even your last time you did this, I said, here's some sources that explicitly say atheist is someone who holds the belief that God does not exist. And you said, okay.
Yeah, I looked at those sources and I said, here are my sources that say the exact opposite. And
then it was like, they said. No,
philosophy is still saying this. I don't know why you keep trying to say you deny my sources and I accept your sources. Did you even read what I put up?
Yes, and you're misreading your sources again. They are not saying that atheist is just someone who lacks a belief. They're saying that all atheists lack a belief. That is true.
It is not saying that it is just this is just the definition. It is making an argument. What is your argument? And it is defining that the definition of atheist is this. And then when I asked before, well, where are people getting the fact that the consensus in philosophy is this? No one could say anything, and now we're in a hangout. Then all of a sudden it was like, he's not showing me any references. He's not showing me any references that this is the consensus in philosophy. And now that I'm challenging that fact, again, you could be right. But everything that I've seen has not led me to the conclusion that this is the consensus in philosophy. I understand you believe that, but it's just not the truth.
Okay, I'll even find your paper from the Oxford Handbook that I'll have to go find. That even one of those papers even says that this is the consensus, but this is the arguments against the consensus.
Okay, I'd like to see that.
You know, because that's the funniest part. It's like, this is how it's taught. How do you think it's taught in universities? How do you think?
Well, I emailed a professor of philosophy because we were having that discussion on the Hangouts, not the Hangouts, but on G+. And then I sent the email to that professor, and he said, yeah, this is, it all depends if you're talking about he went into the whole psychological state versus proposition and that type of thing. But he was saying it all depends on the way you're using the word in the conversations that you're having. So I thought he went too deep. But it seemed that he was saying that, yes, and even in his paper that he had wrote, in the book that he had wrote, used the term atheist as the belief that gods do not exist. Now he did say there is, you could make the argument for the belief that gods do not exist, but in most of his work, he's used it in this one particular way. Now maybe he might just be an outlier. So I would just hate to impugn this man and say he is the only one using it. So I haven't found it, but this person did use it that way. So he's in the field.
Yeah, but he's saying that you're wrong. Everybody that I know everybody who's ever taken philosophy courses, anybody who's ever written a paper on these topics, all of them use the word atheism in the way I'm describing. Everyone I've ever talked to. Everyone of them.
Well, you got to start talking to more people because the 2 or 3 people you talk to, I don't know if that's the consensus of philosophy. Everybody who I've talked to have said that it's kind of mixed. I've never spoken to somebody who's in the field that says this is the way we use it in the field. It's not, and maybe we just talk to different people, man.
Maybe, but if you can send me somebody who says that that's used differently in academics, I'd like to see that. But regardless of the point, the fact we do agree upon the same thing is that
where does Ozzy land on this issue? I know he coined lacktheism.
He says, I know he definitely firmly in philosophy, atheism is the belief that God does not exist, and atheist adheres to atheism. So an atheist is someone who believes God does not exist. He thinks that he's firmly on the side of that is how it's always been in academics, and he taught this.
Yeah, he did. He does think that.
Yeah.
Except he'll put it in a way that's very verbose, right?
Well, he'll spend 30 minutes describing something that takes 15 seconds. Yeah.
Right. But
I love Ozzy. But okay, so here's what
I love him too. I think he's great. Yeah.
Here's where we do agree upon MP. So we don't have to go on with this. Can we agree for the live chat, so we're on the same page, that we both agree there are multiple definitions, and anybody who says that atheism is just a lack of belief, meaning that is the only definition, is absolutely equivocally wrong.
Yes, 100%. Okay. I agree.
There you go. Then we'll leave it with that, because that to me is the takeaway. I don't care if you think it's ubiquitous in philosophy or not. That's fine. But if you think that atheism is just a lack of belief, you are absolutely, unequivocally, 100% bullshit wrong.
Well, I would even go farther than that. Just to be clear, I want to go farther than that and say that, yes, Steve is correct when he says in philosophy, atheism stands for the proposition that the belief that gods do not exist. And the only reason why I'm saying that, because all the sources that I've said have seemed to come to that same conclusion, that atheism, when you're talking about atheism, that's what you're talking about. So.
I agree. Jade, you wanted to post something, by the way. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, I was going to just read something out for the interest of those out there, because I had posted this sometime before. It's from Samuel Johnson's dictionary in 1755. Remember, I said Johnson's was the first real dictionary. There were lists of words before, but not a real dictionary. Atheism, the disbelief of a god. One that denies the existence of God. So I hope
that's going back how far?
1855. This is not his first dictionary. I think it was earlier than that, but this is one of his earliest ones. I don't think atheists and atheism were in his very first dictionary.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Samuel Johnson.
We actually had somebody who actually like a PhD, and I forgot what it was. It was whatever it is, but studies language. And this was, and when we were talking about this, he pulled up an actual paper written by one of his colleagues, and it mentioned how it was initially described, and then he mentioned the changes, and that's what actually convinced me that Steve was right when it came to atheism, because he actually went through and said, when it comes to atheism, this is the reason why. It actually started as a lack of belief, but actually was refined because it was logically incoherent. It was redefined very early on as the belief that gods don't.
I find it to be. I don't think originally it was a lack of belief. I think that came in early on.
To remember that Christians at one time were considered atheists because they didn't believe in the Roman pantheon.
Right. That was
what I'm looking at. So what I'm going by one of the reasons I looked this up, and I took screenshots from a copy of Samuel Johnson's 1755 dictionary. And that's where I'm getting this. So what I was looking at was what are the earliest definitions of atheism. Now, we can go back even further because this is a rather... Let's go to this for a minute. Very first, at least according to certain sources that I've read, the term theism, theos meaning God, the term theism was first used by Ralph Cudworth. And this was in... His original book was published in 1678.
Well, then that disagrees with what Ozzy said, because Ozzy is on record saying the word atheist was coined before the word theism.
No. Yes, it was. I'm saying the word theism. Perhaps you didn't hear me. The term theism comes from theism in English. Comes from this book, The True Intellectual System of the Universe by Ralph Cudworth, although this is English, so It was published in 1678, and you can find it on Google Books. And the whole title is The Intellectual System of the Universe, wherein all of the reason and philosophy of atheism is confuted. Possibility demonstrated, a treatise on immutable morality with a discourse concerning the true notion of the Lord's Supper, Son, John, whatever. Anyway, this is not unusual. They often have these big, huge, long titles in the past.
Let's sum it up like this.
Let's move on. Yeah, we disagree with just one minor point. Yeah. So we actually all agree with like 99% of this, except the one point we disagree with. That's fine.
Deuce Vault sums it up perfectly, and we'll leave it with that before we move on. Deuce Vault in the live chat, by the way, there's so many people watching, says, quote, all philosophical atheists are atheists, but not all atheists are philosophical atheists.
That's a good sum.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, Steve elects to use only the philosophical definition during philosophical discussion. That is correct. Now, I will have one caveat. If somebody really wants to use the lack of belief definition, I'm not like saying, okay, I can't, for the sake of argument, accept that. That's not a big deal. Okay, but you are right. When I'm having a philosophical discussion, the way I'm using this word is the formal use of it, of atheism. Okay, which is, a belief that God does not exist. So I just want to make that very clear. Let me start presenting you, Jade. So I just want to make that very clear. What the problem we see is when we do this is that, again, certain people think that the only definition for atheism is lack of belief, because that's what they hear from YouTube. And they don't understand how wrong that is. And no matter how many people tell them otherwise, no matter how much research they go do, which seems like none, they're gonna parrot this trope and as some kind of mantra of being true, and it's not true. It's absolutely unequivocally false.
But you can't blame them, because the majority of definitions from the dictionary, encyclopedias, things that they hear online, all kind of say that this is a definition that you use. So you would have to actually do a deeper dive to kind of find out this kind of alternative definition.
I get that. It's not something. I get that.
And if I could say something about that and try to change the subject, if everybody's ready for a subject change, change. And you got a good point there, multiple personality, because look up the definition of the word evolution in dictionaries and encyclopedias and get utterly confused. So here's what I wanted to bring it to, because I haven't read everything in this but Steve, of course, everything I'll post in the. It said, Proposition 1, 99% of the world's biologists accept the theory of evolution as a confirmed model that explains biodiversity. Proposition 2, probabilistically, there is a higher chance that the theory of evolution is a confirmed model that explains biodiversity than it not being a confirmed model that explains biodiversity. It's more likely than less likely that the theory of evolution is a valid appeal to authority or a fallacy. And the questions were valid argument with an appeal to authority or fallacy of appeal to authority. There is a lot of stuff underneath this that I haven't been able to read yet, because there's 182 responses. And I think we're having, huh?
Oh, Jay,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Have you read the entire list, Steve?
Yeah, I pretty much did.
Because
there's a few people that aren't understanding the argument.
That's my problem, I think, is that they don't understand the argument. When you say appeal to authority, the fallacy is not appealing to an authority. The fallacy is just appealing to an illegitimate authority.
Yeah, it's appealing to an authority that is not an authority. Like that poll that you put up, Steve. Right. I don't see why so many people got that wrong. It just didn't make any sense to me. It's like maybe they didn't know what the fallacy was.
But I want to clarify something. It's not okay for an invalid appeal to authority. Appeal to authority that is a fallacy is not just appealing to somebody who's not authority. It also could be somebody who's authority in the position, but has not evaluated the evidence. Right? If I say, look, my car mechanic says I need new brakes, but he hasn't even looked at my car, that's a fallacy, right? He hasn't examined the evidence. So when you have people like Sybaris Hex is saying that any appeal to authority is fallacious, he's not understanding what the fallacy is, because an appeal to authority is not necessarily a fallacy. It's argumentum ad veracundium, which is basically means appeal to an expert on their testimony based upon the fact they've examined the evidence. It's not saying that the proposition is true. It's a likelihood argument. It's a probabilistic argument, right?
That's, if I say that's another fallacy, is if you appeal to them and then based upon their say so, you believe it with that, like they say it's always true because they said so.
Well, that's not. But that's the form he keeps bringing up that I'm not using. Look, and if I said,
right,
all these experts say P is true, therefore P is true, that would be an argument.
That's a fallacy.
Yes. That's a fallacy. That's an argument from authority.
Right.
But if I say the overwhelming consensus of experts say this, it has a higher probability that this is the case than a lesser probability of being the case. That is perfectly valid argument.
Yes. That is 100% valid. And I don't understand why people don't get that. It seems simple to me. I don't know.
67% of the great debate community has already said that's a fallacy, and yet I only know like 5 names of all the people that have weighed in on that. I know all the names who agree, and they're all in most of them in the scientific field. Sam, a scientist, agrees. I know Jade agrees.
I was going to agree to that, but then I was like, maybe I'm reading this wrong because so many people disagreed. I was like, maybe I'm just reading this wrong because it just doesn't make sense. So many people disagree with this.
And I'm with you, MP. I don't. How so many people could get this wrong? I really don't.
I'm gobsmacked. Again, if Sybaris said, "Oh, you're just appealing to the masses," I'm like, look, I'm only pulling this because I want people's opinion. I am not saying they're right or wrong because in this case, the masses are against me for whatever reason. But I'm flabbergasted that they don't understand this is a perfectly reasonable argument. There's nothing fallacious about this. They're throwing in a fallacy that does not exist because I'm not making the argument A, B, C, D says it's true, therefore X is true. I'm saying A, B, C, who are experts in the field, including 99% of the community, says it's true. Experts, therefore it has a higher likelihood.
Some people think that appeal to authority is a fallacy,
regardless.
Used whenever there's an authority involved in the argument.
Yes, and they're wrong.
Is this evidence against the notion that atheists are necessarily irrational?
What do you mean?
Well, we don't know.
Pretty strong evidence that atheists can be irrational.
Actually, I'm not, Immortal, I'm not even lying to you. I know a lot of irrational theists, but I tell you what, the more militant atheists, when they start getting to be irrational, it's epically worse.
Yeah, I mean,
because they throw away all common sense.
I think no matter who you are, no matter what your theological position, you can be irrational because a lot of times I know a lot of theists who make rational decisions every day. They go to work, they pay their bills, but then they have an irrational belief that they want to hold on to.
Yeah, there's one point that I don't think it has been brought up yet, that, you know, Steve was making an inductive argument, not a deductive argument. Like, like the conclusion doesn't follow necessarily from the premise, you know, like he said, as a probability argument.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, he was.
So I mean, saying that, you know,
it's totally inductive. Oh, I mean, it's totally right, because I'm not saying that you have to have the proposition to be true because of this. That would be a deductive fallacy.
Right.
But I'm saying inductively, it is more likely to be the case. For example, if I have 1,000 doctors and 999 of them have reviewed the evidence and they say, you know what, you got cancer, and one of them says, I've reviewed the evidence, you don't. What is more probabilistically the correct thing, that you do have cancer, you do not?
But that's why I think he said it's an argument from abduction, not deductions, which is true.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And we have no choice.
I mean, it's a deductive argument, but I'm making an inductive inference, right? The inference is that it is more probabilistically be true based upon the fact that experts have it. I mean, my syllogism is a deductive argument that's set forth as a deductive argument, but it's still using an inductive premises.
Just so people know, a deductive argument is A equals B, B equals C, so A equals C. That would be deductive.
Sure.
And abductive is the argument that Steve's making, that is more likely than not based on evidence.
Right. And how would anybody think that's a fallacy? I don't get that.
Right.
Because they're idiots or ignorant or both.
I mean, but it's not. It's not just a few people. A lot of people think this is a fallacy, and I don't know where they're getting this from. And I ask them, "Where are you getting this as a fallacy?" Nothing. Not a single person can quote me why this is a fallacy. This is a probabilistic argument. This is the same argument that experts use to say, look, global warming is real because the expert consensus is that it's real. Therefore, it is more likely to be the case that the Earth is warming than less likely. That is not a fallacious argument.
Because they use
we have no choice. We have no choice but to appeal to experts. We have absolutely no choice. For example, here in California, Steve's probably familiar with this. There are certain times of the year where the experts tell us not to eat any shellfish, because there are certain times of the year where this infection,
the appeal to authority fallacy. I want to get sick.
Red tide, and this is red tide, and we know this, because the state hires experts to test and clams and other shellfish in the state. And they hire these experts because we know this situation exists. And so you get a warning and it says, don't eat shellfish, because we're at this particular point where these toxins have built up in the bodies of the shellfish. It doesn't hurt the shellfish. It's going to hurt the person eating the shellfish. So we're going to appeal to those experts, right? We're going to not eat the shellfish.
But because these experts
really
think
sick.
so, it doesn't necessarily follow that it's true.
Well, and that's not the, but here's the thing though. It doesn't have to be true or not. The argument is very simple. If the experts are saying it is more likely you're going to get sick because of the increase in red tide, it is a completely rational argument to say because of this, it is a higher probability. Simple as that.
It is entirely possible. It is entirely possible for someone to go out and to collect some mussels and not get sick from those mussels. But the probability
just
of
like
getting
a flat
sick,
earther when you said that, by the way.
right?
But is it possible but unlikely at the same time?
Possible to go out when the state says don't eat shellfish. It is possible to go out and get shellfish, to eat them, and you're fine because you happen to find a patch of shellfish that were not infected. But the state cannot possibly test a shellfish in this state. We have mussels, we have oysters, we have clams. You can't test them all.
Right.
Is they spot check. And so because they spot check, they go to Pismo Beach, check the Pismo clams, they'll check the various different piers for the mussels that are on the piers. And so they come to this conclusion that it is more likely, it is potentially very dangerous to eat shellfish right now. So don't. Maybe some people who decide, well, you know what? We live in this little bay. We've never had a problem here. We're going to go out and get some mussels, and they may be fine because they may have a particular knowledge that the state doesn't have. But by and large, you don't eat shellfish. You're playing Russian roulette with your health.
And inverse is true as well. They could say it's safe, and you could get sick.
Right, but here's
right, because certain conditions, and where I live, this is actually very true because we have a little harbor here in Santa Cruz. I'm not actually in Santa Cruz. We have a little harbor here, and in harbors, toxins can sometimes build up. So if it might be safe all up and down the state, someone collects some mussels or some clams from the harbor and gets sick. You're absolutely right that the inverse is true, but we have to go by what the experts tell us for the best outcome.
And here's the problem that I also see that people are running into is that if you're going to argue that if 99% of the expert community agree upon something as consensus, that it makes no difference between that and only 1% arguing for something, then why have an expert consensus of anything? You're literally saying that if 99% of the experts are telling you one thing, that doesn't give you a higher probability of being correct, then you're saying it doesn't matter if 99% of the experts do or 1% do. They equally have the same amount of probability. So who the hell do you listen to?
You know what, Steve?
Wait. A society cannot function like that. If the people putting the people on the moon say, look, we have to trust people, but you know what? It doesn't matter whether 99% of our scientists agree with this. We're going to it doesn't matter if 1%. Then who do you trust? That makes no sense to say that it's just as much probabilistically true to say 99% true or 1% true. Of course, if a higher degree of experts agree upon something, then clearly, probabilistically, it is a higher degree of chance of being true. The argument is that is only a higher chance, not that it is true. That's the difference. And I think the people voting on this in the great debate community are confused by this.
You know, I found it very interesting. Ben Shapiro uses a similar argument like this when he tries to demonstrate the existence of God. And what he says is that 95% of the planet agrees that believes that there's a God, no matter what form, but there is some type of higher power. And the 5% who doesn't believe would be kind of like the science deniers, those people who are denying science. But that's this is the argument. I obviously don't. I agree. This is a bad analogy.
Yeah, it's a false analogy.
But Christians do hold to this analogy that, hey, just like, when you're talking about 99% of the scientists agree, 95% of the population agree in this, which is an argument ad populum. But so why don't we accept the consensus of reality versus the consensus of scientists? We accept one consensus in one way and not one.
I'll give you the answer to that. Great question.
That's Ben Shapiro's argument, not my argument. Please don't attack me because I know everybody's going to go crazy.
No. It's a good question, but here's the reason. Because when people have the expertise, when they go through school, we give them a certain higher standard in society. When a doctor goes through medical school, we're actually giving up some of our individuality to make decisions and giving it to them the ability to do so because they have expertise, right? That's a societal pact that we made. When somebody goes to medical school and they become a doctor and they have that title, they inherently can make certain decisions that the normal person cannot make. Would you agree? We're giving them the right to do that, right? A scientist is the same way. When a person reaches that status where they are a scientist and they have the credentials and the expertise that has been demonstrated, we are giving up to them some kind of respect that we're saying their expertise means something, right? That's why they have expert testimony in a court of law. They don't say, hey, Joe Schmo, come testify. We want somebody that has an expertise, and they grill them in voir dire to make sure that that person is the expert that they claim to be. Correct, MP? Right? If you've had expert testimony, have you got and you've actually validated that the person's claiming to have the credentials they have, you quiz them to make sure that they are the expert, they have expert testimony, correct? To avoid here. I don't know where we went. Okay, so that's something we do. We accept as a society, Well,
and the arguments for God are completely different. Inconclusive, and they're faith-based.
Yes.
I'm a Roman Catholic.
I wish more people knew the difference between inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. The difference between a deductive argument and inductive one.
Because they listen to people like Ronnie, True Empirism, who doesn't know the difference between inductive, abductive, and deductive.
Yeah,
the biggest difference between these things is that in a deductive argument, you're not acquiring any new information. In an inductive, you're actually trying to extrapolate new information from existing information. That's one of the bigger differences.
What's abductive, though?
Abductive would be the best explanation for something that you're observing. For example, if I say, I'm upstairs and I'm like back when I had, my daughter was a baby. If I hear a baby crying and I smell poop, I can abductively say, based on prior experience, that my daughter probably needs changing, right? Now, that could be totally wrong. She could just be hungry and I smell the cat shit, right? But abductively, I can make an argument that it's more likely the hypothesis that my daughter needs changing than it is something else, right? That's an abductive argument.
I thought
that was inductive, but
let me offer. Well, wouldn't another analogy be? Let's say you pass 1,000 houses that are red, and then if somebody says, "What's the next house going to be?" and you would say it's likely to be red, that would be that type of argument.
Yes.
The next house doesn't have to be red, but you're saying it's going to be more likely just past 1,000.
Right, because you're objectively basing it on prior experience.
Okay, so now I'm having a hard time with, what's the difference between an inductive and an abductive argument?
Between what?
What's the difference between an inductive and an abductive argument?
An inductive argument. Okay, Sherlock Holmes used induction. He used one thing, right? He wasn't using deduction. Everybody says, it's deductive, my dear Watson. No, it wasn't deductive. It was inductive. Inductive means to come to a conclusion based upon new information, based upon prior information, right? But deductive reasoning has no new information in the system. You're just saying, here's what I know, here's my premises, here's the conclusion based upon that.
No, not the difference between inductive and deductive, but abductive and inductive.
Because abductive is just saying, look, based upon prior experience, I'm going to say that this to be the case. Like he said, I see 900 houses. I'm going to abductively say that the 901 is probably going to be red. I can't make that as a deductive argument, right? Because clearly that doesn't have to be the case. And I can't even make it as an inductive because I have no premises in the conclusion.
Well, I think he's trying to say the difference between induction and abduction is induction starts from the conclusion. Here's the conclusion. You're trying to reason to the premise from the conclusion versus reasoning to a conclusion.
Well, I hate starting with a conclusion and working my way backwards. That's not how
that would be an example of an inductive argument, something where you have a conclusion but work back. Like think of it like a crime scene. Crime scene analysis is usually using inductive arguments. Here's what happened, the conclusion, and we're trying to break it down and find out how we got there.
And I agree with that. I mean, that's true. But like I do when Ronnie says, or when True Pearson says something like, "Oh, the most abductive argument for things like ATP synthase is that it's intelligent design." That's bullshit. I don't even know how to begin to even describe
that's
the level of confidence that is.
That's crap.
It's totally crap.
But like inductive reasoning in a crime scene is like the perfect combination because you have a conclusion. You know what happened. You can look at a dead body riddled with bullet holes and a missing gun and know that there was a murder. That's pretty cut and dry. You know somebody killed somebody and took the gun.
Yeah, even if you weren't there to see it happening for yourself, but yeah, you make the inference.
So you could go around and say, well, there's blood spatter here. You could start examining the crime scene and go from there and figure out eventually how that happened and based upon clues, you can induce what happened and who done it. Basically.
It's funny.
But like the 900 houses.
I've taken a crime, like when you take a crime scene course, the first thing they tell you is that, let's say you walk into a crime scene and you see a body on the floor and a gun right next to them, and the first thing most people say is that person was shot dead, without even looking at the body to see if there's any bullet holes.
Yeah, you can't make that argument.
You have to be very careful about. Inductive arguments can lead you to very, very wrong conclusions if you're not careful.
But they could have committed suicide. Is there a bullet hole?
The abductive argument, it wouldn't be an inductive, it would be an abductive, basically saying that, look, I've seen 1,000 bodies with guns next to them. 900 of them were gunshot related. That would be an abductive argument, but it wouldn't be very sound to make that type of argument, right? Especially when you're investigating a crime scene. You try not to use abductive arguments, I would think, in crime scene, right? Because they don't lead you to truth situations. They're just this is the best explanation I have at the time, right? But you do more investigation, your abductive argument can turn into more of an inductive argument, or even a deductive, I guess, in some cases. But yeah, you don't want to like start off with saying that an abductive argument has to be the case. But I think people do formulate initial opinions of something, right? Well, if I said, okay, here's a dead body, gun in their hand, abductively, I think your propensity would be to say that this person is probably shot. But again, doesn't matter what you probably think it is. You need to investigate further. Would you not?
Oh yeah, no, 110%. But that's what the process in finding out what happened is actually through induction.
Yes.
Induction. But the conclusions that people can make right on the scene are abductive.
Bingo. Yeah. Initial abductive arguments are fine, but once you start looking into it, that would be the induction. You need to actually, research it, right? But then you have Hume's problem of induction, right? But at that point, I think you have overwhelming evidence that even though that you cannot say that an induction is fallacious or cannot be wrong, because it can be, obviously. That's what Hume's problem of induction is. But I think that more likely that if you have a good inductive argument, your probability is going to be higher than with a bad inductive argument. Would you not? Because that's exactly what the whole topic was on the Great Debate Community that Jay was talking about. Inductively, if a group of experts say this is the case, then I would think that it would be kind of common sense that is more likely the case. If 1,000 dentists say you need a root canal and one of them says you don't,
I'm getting a root canal.
It's nonsensical that you probably need the root canal. There's a higher probability they're probably right. And yet people are actually saying no to this question on the GDC. The 2/3 have answered this question as a fallacy. And I'm like, really?
The same could hold true. The same could hold true of the abductive argument. Like you could be in the crime scene and see the body with the gun in their hand, and later the coroner could tell you this person was not shot to death; they were strangled.
But let me ask you this, David. You walk in a crime scene, dead body, gun in hand. I have two boxes. Person was shot, person was stabbed. What are you more likely to actually say is abductive inference?
Abductively, I would say they were shot if there's a gun in their hand.
Right. It's just a normal thing, right? You're not going to say, right. "Oh, I'm more likely to say they're stabbed because they have a knife in their hand," but they don't. They have a gun in their hand. So, of course, you abductively have a better hypothesis initially. But as MP says, as you research it, abduction is a very weak form of induction, actually. It's a very, very weak form. If I'm not mistaken, all abduction is a form of induction, but a weak form. I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm right. But anybody know?
It's almost like a starting point of induction.
Yeah, it's the best explanation at the time. That's literally what it means. The best explanation of a hypothesis at a time. That's it for the time being. But things change, right? So.
Absolutely.
Oh, see how educational my channel is? We have a lawyer that's, explaining. We have Jade. We have me with my beard, so that means I'm right. See, when you have a 4-inch goatee, you're automatically correct. You know that's fact.
And if you have a 3-inch goatee, you're only 3/4 correct.
Yeah, 75%. Yeah. Why do you have goatee envy?
Is that the goatee standard? No, actually, I don't. I'm quite thankful I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Some advantages to being a woman.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of advantages of being a woman, but whatever.
Yeah. We don't have that other stuff to deal with either. I still don't know how you guys.
So his life. Oh, it's carefully. And when you don't do it right, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You eventually get to the point where you don't think about it, and then when you do make a mistake,
Yeah.
You dress to the left or to the right?
I have no idea what that feels like, but I grew up with my cousin. My cousin lived with us growing up, and I saw his reaction when something happened down there accidentally, like riding his bicycle and accidentally landing on that bar.
Oh yeah, the bar thing on the bicycle is it's like the total opposite of what it should be for guys. But anyhow, I actually had a table saw kick back on me, and I'm 6'2", and yeah, that didn't feel good.
But I said I've seen the look on his face, and I just felt so sorry for the poor guy. It was like, I swear to God, it looked like he was going through the agonies of hell. So I'm really thankful I don't have that to deal with.
I had what's called epididymitis one time. Do you know what that is, Jade?
Yes, I do. Oh God.
Yeah. Not a hat. Was not a hat. Yeah.
Something to do with the skin, right?
No.
Yeah, kind of. Epididymitis is inflammation of the region where the testicle and the tube that joins it gets inflamed.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. It's like blue balls times 100,000.
Blue balls is what's called not comfortable, right? I mean, you're discomfort. Epididymitis is straight up pain.
Not comfort. It's like hard to walk when you get that bump.
Have you had it? Right. Well, no. Epididymitis is actually very, very painful.
Right. It's like blue balls times 100,000.
I was out of. I mean, it's just And I was like, "What the fuck is this?" I was like, I had to go to the doctor, honestly. And
isn't the way to avoid like blue balls is to actually go and just let the load out if it gets all backed up like that?
Well, blue balls, I think it's psychological more than anything else, if I'm not mistaken. But epididymitis is.
I've
had physical blue balls before.
I've heard that what MP says is right. I don't know, being a woman, but might I just add at this point that this is a prime example of non-intelligent design?
Well, yeah, it is. It is a prime example. And then there's like the female equivalent of epididymitis would be like pelvic inflammatory disease, I think.
Yeah. Or
oh yeah, that is, from what I understand, is incredibly painful. There are also a couple of other really marvelous things like polycystic ovary syndrome and
something along
endometriosis.
those lines. Yeah.
Endometriosis, especially.
Plus, I've never had any one of them known people who have.
Well, endometriosis would literally have an inflammation of the uterine lining, right? So endometriosis, I've dated a lot of women, so I know all the female problems. But I had one that suffered from endometriosis, one that had what's called a bilateral hysterectomy because of it. Where they removed the fallopian tubes, the ovaries, and the uterus.
Steve, you're starting to sound like Ric Flair, how he slept with 10,000 women.
No, I'm not up to triple digits yet.
No.
But I've had a few.
Yeah.
It would.
But yeah,
it's funny. One thing that I was just actually arguing with a friend of mine who happened to be a lawyer, and it's interesting because he's from the South, and you know how it's the Christian Bible Belt. But one thing that we realized was that in the South, generally, when it comes to the age of consent for young girls, it's usually something like 16, 15 is usually the lowest. But you're talking about, like when you go to the Northeast and West out there, it's usually about 17, 18. But as you get to, let's say, Utah, which is very conservative, it's 16, and Alabama, it's like 15 or 16. And it was interesting to see that in those particular, when you get to the Bible Belt, the age of consent drops dramatically than when you are to the coast. And we were just trying to figure out why is that. You would suspect it to be opposite since these people were more religious, but it happens to be the reverse.
Well, it's because they married their cousins at such an early age. It wasn't that long ago that a couple of southern states had the age of consent at 14.
Except Florida. Florida's got it at 18.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But if you look back in history, some of them had it at 12.
Well, I know for a fact this is the law how it is now in New York. If you can get married at something like 15 or 16, but you couldn't have sex with like for instance, if she's your girlfriend, you couldn't have sex with her at that age, but you can marry her and then you can consummate the marriage. So it's very weird the way they have it here.
Do they need permission to get married? Because here in California,
yes, you would need permission to get married from your parents.
Yeah, I was going to say because I had a cousin whose son, and they had to have permission from both sets of parents, but the parents finally gave in because these kids were having children and having sex, and they weren't going to quit. So the families got together and decided we might as well just let them get married.
I've already told you, Jade. My daughter has two options. You know what they are? She can become a lesbian or become a nun or a combination thereof. That's it.
Oh, I see.
That's her only two options. And I don't care if she becomes a lesbian nun, but that's her only two options because the thought of her getting married.
It's God's punishment to you, Steve, because you've had all these women. Now he gave you a beautiful little girl that takes care of her.
That's exactly why I'm overprotective of her. Because she's already talking about boys and she's okay. I'll tell you a story. This is true. Because me and her mom and her were out a couple weeks ago, and I said something. She said something, and I was like, "Oh man, you suck." And she's like, "No, I swallow." And I was like, "What the fuck?" or something. I was like, "You did not just say something like that." And I asked her. I was like, "Did she just say what I think she said?" And I was like, "What the fuck?" She was like, she didn't no idea what it meant. She had no idea what it meant. She just heard people say it. And her mom was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like telling her mom, I'm like calming her now, and I'm like, look it, she doesn't know what the fuck it means. Just let it go, play it off, right? And her mom, okay. So because she's like, why? What does that mean? That's what she said in the back seat. That's what I was telling her mom, just let it go. I was like, oh, just it's stupid. Don't worry about it, right? I really tried to play it off as much as possible because I was like, I was like, holy shit, right? So. Her mom was smart. She's like played it off as well, but that was disconcerting. I damn near lost my shit. Right?
Oh god, that's scary.
Hey Jade.
But then I realized she didn't know what it meant, I was like, oh, all is well in the universe.
Yeah. Hey Jade, why do women get so upset? Like at one point, I remember I had this girlfriend, and she thought she was pregnant. Thank God she wasn't. But then after she got pregnant, after she thought she got pregnant. I was like, oh, well, you know, whatever happens, you know, I'll be there, you know, after we take the DNA test and find out. And it just got like so heated. She hated the fact that I wanted a DNA test. Is it really a slap in the face if your boyfriend says, why not stop making sure? Let's just get a DNA test to make sure. Why should I just cop to it for the next 21 years? Why can't I be sure?
Well, women are nesters, you know. And this is a big joke in the lesbian community. You know, it's like you've heard the joke of, what do you take on a second date? A U-Haul. So you haven't heard that before? There's a lot of truth to that joke, by the way. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, what does a lesbian take on a second date? A U-Haul. Nesters. And so you get two women together, and that's sort of what happens. So so a woman invests a lot emotionally into a relationship. It's just that they do it in a different way. So if you're in an exclusive relationship, and you know what, even if you're not, it's like for a lot of women, it's like, how dare you think that I can't control my own reproductive system so that I know who I'm having sex with and who it's possible. It is. And I think it's stupid. I do. I think it's stupid. I think we're in the 21st century, and it should just be safe to have a DNA test. It shouldn't be an insult. It should just be basic, you know?
I don't see a problem with it.
But there are women who
I understand.
Who are like, but I never slept with anybody but you. Right. And yet, folks, you've all probably seen at some point, you know, what Maury Povich.
Right.
I mean,
I was going to
never
say
slept with anybody but you, but him.
You are not the father.
I get that, but I would be like, as a woman, then if I was a woman, but I hate to speak for a woman, but I would say, look it. I know I've never slept with anybody, but I want to have this DNA test because I want to show you that, you know, I've been faithful. That's the best way I think that I would go about it.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's another point too that I would argue from the woman's point of view, because I've known cases where, you know, the woman, you know, got pregnant, mother, you know, was paying child support, and then he decided one day he didn't want to pay child support. He was claiming it wasn't his kid. I think everyone needs to have the DNA test. That way the weasel can't cop out of child support either.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's beneficial to both parties, right?
I agree.
Right?
And if you
DNA
think
test
it's
the mother as well, right?
So what? So what?
But
I mean, you know that you're human. You know, maybe there was that party you went to. You got a little drunk and you kind of forgot what you did. You know, few of us are perfect human beings. Well, I would just say, just have it. That way you've got the evidence.
It should just be kind of automatic, like even if you're married, because like there's so many things that can be that genetically are transmitted that they have found in that number is only going to go up as we find more more genetic diseases and more genetic conditions. So just getting the baby tested and getting you and your wife or the man and the woman tested is going to be necessary just to determine if the baby has genetic conditions or is susceptible to genetic conditions like amniocentesis is going to be more common than it used to be, a lot more common. So just that.
I was going to testing. You will know what to look for better in an amniocentesis.
Right. And it's so,
but
paternity is going to be no.
Yeah. But there are cases. There are those odd cases. And unfortunately, I get chimerism and mosaicism mixed up all the freaking time. So it's one of the two. I don't know why I can't keep the two of them straight. Okay. Some of you I may have heard about this, but there was a woman who I don't remember the exact circumstances, but they were going to do a DNA test for her to donate. I don't remember exactly. When they did the DNA test, they found out she was not the mother of her children. Her DNA didn't match her children. The authorities acted like complete idiots, and they arrested her, thinking that somehow she had kidnapped these children. And yet everybody was saying, I mean, her husband was there during the delivery. The doctor was there. The nurses were there. Said, no, she gave birth to these children.
What conditions were you confused
Are you
on?
talking about?
Chimerism?
Yeah,
And
chimerism and mosaicism. I always get them confused. But what I was what happened? So they arrested this woman. Her
I know the
attorney,
story, yeah.
fortunately, had heard about another case previous, just like this. The authorities didn't totally freak out there. So what happens is sometimes two eggs are fertilized, and they have two completely different sets of DNA, but they combine into one person. So there are situations, in this particular case, when they did a cheek swab of this woman, her DNA in her cheek was completely different from the DNA in her egg cells.
Oh yeah, this was the Michigan case, right? I learned this in law school, the Michigan case, in which the woman had two different DNA
in the woman, and it can happen in men too. So, for example, if someone swears up and down they never had, so let's say a woman swears up and down she never had any sex with this man, and they did a DNA swab, absolutely sure you could test his sperm.
Yeah, because I remember there was one case where one of the genetic markers was for a woman, the other one was for a man. So it was like when they tested the DNA, it was crazy because it was like she was like, I'm a woman, but they were like, your DNA test is a man, but her when her ovaries and stuff were testing as a woman, and they were like, hold on, this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So chimerism.
Well, that's because
chimerism refers to an active transplant of genetically different tissue. So that would be like from a bone marrow transplant. What was the other condition you were looking
mosaicism.
Mosaicism is you're born with two different types of DNA in your.
Right, and I think that's what she's talking about. Yeah.
Just unfortunately, I can never. I don't know why. It's like a mental block that I can't keep the two of them straight.
They are similar conditions, so.
Right, they are similar, which is why I keep getting confused. And I am dyslexic, so that's probably part of it. But yeah, but you're absolutely right. Multiple personality. You could have two eggs fertilized, one male and one female, and they will combine into one individual. And so that person can have both some cells that are XY, some cells that are XX. It happens. And whichever was dominant in like the sex cell, in this case, it was a woman. So this person developed as a woman, the hormones of a woman, but the cells in their cheek were, were those of a man. And women themselves, we are all a little odd because we have what's called exit activation.
Isn't that what happened with the Ethiopian? Not was it South American or Ethiopian gymnast, or was she a runner? Where they were like, well, she's built like a man, and then they tested like her DNA and found that it may be a man, and they were like, hold on, she has all these male tendencies, but then she has female parts, and how does this work? So,
well, yeah, there are all sorts of combinations that can happen. But what I was going to say about women is, we have two X chromosomes, right? But only one X chromosome can be dominant. So in all female bodies, all female mammal bodies, certain parts of your body will have one X chromosome dominant, and other parts of your body will have the other one. So for example, in my heart, X chromosome dominant, and my liver could have the other X chromosome dominant. And this is why we get the coloring pattern we get in calico cats.
Well,
have you heard that lady that
vagina has the right X chromosome because I need it.
You hear about the recent case of somebody giving birth where they conceived like over a week apart? It's called superfetation.
Yes, it's very rare, but it does happen. Yeah.
Where you basically
placental mammals.
That's weird though. I mean, you get pregnant, but there still produces another egg.
Another egg.
Still ovulating.
Hang on. That's unique to placental mammals. Is that what you're saying? Okay. It's
with placental mammals, and then they get pregnant again. So you get pregnant. Most of the time, it can't be the same father, but if the sperm stay alive. But sometimes it could be two different fathers, and so you give birth to two at the same time to two children by different fathers
from two different fathers.
Right.
Yes.
And they're two different ages. Slightly. Right. I mean, in terms of months, they're two different ages. Now, in marsupials, this is not uncommon.
Okay, I understand now.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like a kangaroo will have.
Well, technically, they're placental until they become.
Wait, hang on, she wasn't done. I mean,
no. Kangaroos are marsupials; they're not placentals.
Yeah, they're not placental at all.
Yeah, but they can have more than one baby, more than one fetus going at the same time, but they're of different ages.
So real quick, I hate to change it real quick, but Jade, what's happening to the great debate community? We're adding all these people where it's 67% think this is a fallacy. I don't know any of these people. I know like 5 people that voted on this. They're all new names. Are we losing our? I mean, do you think we're losing our standards, or I mean, we're letting anybody in, but we used to seem to have a lot of I don't know,
philosophical literacy.
It could be that some people don't understand the question. I think it might be worthwhile, Steve, for you to do a video about this and explain.
I suck at videos.
Or maybe someone else could do it for you. You know, you might even just ask if someone else could do a video explaining this and go into why this is. You know, maybe even. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, here's the thing. Look at a collab that can make videos. I can write scripts. I can write the material. I know what I want to have said. I just can't do the video productions that much. It took me forever to do the one I did in Orphan Red. That was a very long video that I did. But I they don't get much views, right? I mean, I'll have a video like this will get 5,000 views. When I make one myself, it gets 800, right? So it doesn't really behoove me to make a video like that. I get more views this way. But if somebody actually wants to make a video on a particular topic, or they have video skills, I will love to collab with them where I write the thing and we work together and they explain it in a way that we'll run it by other, experts,
Yeah. You know what might be fun, Steve? I just thought about this. You know what might be fun? It might be fun to do a hangout and invite certain people to the hangout and title the hangout "Why 66% of the great debate community is wrong."
Well, maybe I'm just conceding that.
But you know what? One thing that does show ad populum now, it definitely shows why it doesn't work, because the majority of people are definitely wrong in this one.
I don't know most of these names are arguing no. But, I really don't know most.
But you know what? But you know what it also demonstrates? This is something I learned. I'm not like a real social sciences person, so I have to work at it. And when I started doing a lot of research on some of these statistics about homosexuality and stuff like this, discovered from the researchers, because what's always interesting is when people bring up stuff like this, like statistics against homosexuality, and they put all this stuff down. And you know darn well they aren't really reading the sources, because when they read the sources, the actual researchers will explain their work and how it was done and what the problems were. Things that the researchers have brought up time and time again is how there is already a bias because of who is answering the questions. There is, I always forget the proper language. I'm sure somebody out there who's more into social science to get it. But basically what happens is there are certain people who are more inclined to answer questions than others. Most of the times the people who are willing to answer questionnaires or answer someone on the phone or whatever, they have some particular reason that they want to get that information out there. They may have a particular agenda. They may just have some sort of arrogant, narcissistic mindset that they think their opinion is more important than others. So you already have a bias a lot of the times when you just ask a question, because some people aren't going to answer questions. I know that if someone calls me on the phone and asks me to take a poll, I go, nope, and hang up. So I'm not in any of those records because I don't take the polls.
But Jade, just to kind of speak about that's why I usually have the margin of errors, because the margin of errors are kind of speaking. When you see a higher margin of error versus a lower margin of error, they kind of speak to that effect of understanding that some people won't either respond or won't respond honestly, so they try to encapsulate them. And then you also have to look at the methodology behind it, whether it's a blind sample in which they're calling random people and just trying to get short answers versus they're trying to have people take long opinion polls and that type of thing. That's why not all polls are treated treated equally, and there's a kind of a standard. And the standard deviation is like 3 percentage points, or even up to 5 percentage points. Anything more than that is like unacceptable in terms of your methodology. So they do take into account exactly what you're saying, that sometimes people do want to give their opinion less than other people, and they usually account to that. Like 3 to 5% statistics.
Yeah, I just want to say I don't use polls in the great debate community to determine whether it's right or wrong. I use polls to gauge what the GDC kind of thinks as a whole, right? And in a case like this, obviously the GDC is wrong. You're outright wrong. There's nothing wrong with making a probabilistic argument based upon appeal to authority. The fact that the 67% of the great debate think that's a fallacy is disconcerting, to say the least. But I've noticed that all the people who voted that it isn't a fallacy have some kind of education that I know of, right? So the ones that didn't, I don't know what their education is, because it makes no sense to me that they think that this is a fallacy.
Yeah, and I tend to just ignore polls, period. But when I saw this one, the only reason I answered it is because it was Steve's poll. I'll be honest. Most of the time I ignore polls, but Steve put up a poll, I'll bother to read it and answer it. So, biased right there. Most people put up polls, I ignore them. Steve puts up a poll, it's Steve. So I'll give him I'll go ahead and answer it. And it's not that I have anything against other people. It's just that I'm just sort of that person. I don't answer polls. Were some people, did we have a bias towards people that an appeal to authority is fallacy? In other words, did we have a bias to certain people of a certain mindset? I just kind of wonder, because you said a lot of the people who answered in the 66% are names you don't even know.
I'll tell you why I didn't answer your poll, though.
But somebody just noted, one second. Somebody just noted, Steve, you may want to dumb it down because they probably misread the question, and I think they're probably right.
Too.
I thought
they did misread it. But see, here's the thing. Again, I don't want to dump down the question. I want it worded the way it is because I want people to actually read the polls that I give in context the way I give them.
It's so clear though. I don't know how you would dumb that down because it's so clear. It's not like it's even hard to read.
Well, I mean, I thought the question, had an obvious answer. It's like asking me, what color is the sky? I mean, I'm not going to answer polls like that, but.
But you know what? I tell you what. Look, for the same argument, you can even make a popularity argument. Look at if the overwhelming thing of the Earth says the sky is blue, I would say that probabilistically the sky is probably blue. Doesn't mean it actually is blue, but I can make an argument for that. But that's not the same thing as the argument I'm making, because the argument I'm making is actually expert testimony, right?
Or you could do this, Steve. Like, the consensus of people who have looked up at the sky is this. Right?
Is blue. Yeah, that's probably true, right?
Yeah. And I guess you could present like this argument to a blind person, right?
But they wouldn't know how to distinguish what blue is, though. Like if you said to a blind person who's been blind their whole life, the sky is blue, they'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Well, and it's funny because like Sybaris Hex, he's probably loving this the poll, even though it's appeal. But he's actually saying that appeal to authority is fallacious anytime you use it. And we're trying to explain to him. Ocean trying to explain to him. I try to explain to him. Numerous people on the thread try to explain to him. No, Sybaris, an appeal to authority is not always fallacious.
But I thought the formal structure of the appeal to authority fallacy was an appeal to an authority who is not an authority. That's what I thought the fallacy.
I could say
you got educated.
I could say, hey, MP. Wait 1 second. I can say MP has said that in this particular case it is false, and you may have never looked at the case. You're an expert in law, but it's still a fallacy because I'm appealing to you. But you've not evaluated the evidence to even make such a judgment, right? If I say, hey, I have a court case in my hand, did the judge do the correct thing? And you haven't looked at it, and you say, well, yeah, in my expert opinion, the judge was wrong. That doesn't mean anything if you haven't read it, right? It's a fallacy.
Yeah, no, I agree. But even in that case, I wouldn't be an authority. That I would fall into not authority because I wouldn't have known about that particular case. That's why I thought the formal layout of the definition. We say appeal to authority, but I thought it was appeal to an authority that's not an authority because in your in your post, you're actually appealing to the authorities in the field and you're making the abductive argument, which I think is correct. Right. So I think is the correct argument versus appealing to, let's say, the Bible, because I think a lot of Christians would appeal to the Bible as an authority, but that is not, I don't consider that to be authoritative.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I mean,
you got this from Matt Dillahunty, right? Or
who?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Matt Dillahunty. Somebody else said it too, but I think I got it from a couple of places. But I've never actually formally read it, but I saw some videos on it. That's why I was asking if this is the formal definition of it.
But I mean, it's fair to say that the conclusion doesn't follow necessarily from the premises, but I mean that's irrelevant, right? I mean, it's true, but it's irrelevant.
Well, my deductive argument, the conclusion does follow from the premises that it's more likely. It doesn't mean that it actually has to be true, right? But let me ask, MP, if I said, okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask Army, the Immortal Army. If I'm asking the same question.
Yeah, you can call me Dan.
Question, MP a question. I say, hey, does Brown versus education have to do with abortion rights? And you tell me, Army, no. And MP says yes, or something the other way around. If MP says no and you say yes, and I know he's a lawyer, I am more likely to think that he's probably correct on that. The Brown versus education has nothing to do with abortion rights over you. If it actually is the case, it happens to be that, right? Because that had to do with segregation and rights of abortion. But he is an expert in the field. So I am going to give a little bit more credence to what he has to say. That's just how we operate. He's necessarily 100% right. But he's an expert, so I'm going to take an expert opinion, at least initially, over a non-expert, and then I'm going to go do the research on it and find out, if he's either right or he's completely wrong. How'd he pass law school? Right?
Yeah, because if he took mine, man, I would say you're crazy.
But it's so crazy because most scientists and most people who are considered experts in a particular field try so hard not to rely on them being an expert to convince others that they're correct. Like they would rather convince you based on the evidence than just you believing me. So a lot of times they want to bring out the credentials.
Yeah, I think that's wise. But here's the thing: it's a different scenario. As a layperson, if I have to choose who I'm going to believe on a particular topic in the field, I'm going to say, well, I think that probably MP knows the Brown versus education is not dealing with abortion rights. I think he would know that that's Roe v. Wade, right? But to somebody like Dan, I don't know what his knowledge level on this is. I don't think he's a lawyer, so I think that probably you're more likely to be correct on than he is. That's just normal how you would evaluate a particular situation. And that's why people in the great debate community, they're saying that this is a fallacy. I'm boggled by it. I'm like thinking to myself, how in the world a fallacy? What fallacy is it? Because it's certainly not a fallacy of appeal authority.
I don't know how they've I don't know. It baffles me even still looking at this poll. I don't know what's going on.
Well, Frozen C makes a point. He says, I wonder how many people voted a fallacy who also distrust scientific consensus. That's a good point. We are getting a lot more people in the great EDC that we don't know who they are. We don't know their backgrounds. And I've noticed we have a lot more, I don't want to say nutters, but we have people that are more fringe coming in. We're not vetting anybody. I let pretty much any in. But there are people that I think that are not critically minded joining the DDC. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I have no real way to vet somebody to determine if they have some kind of thing to add to the GDC or not, right? So kind of sucks. I figured they'd vet themselves over a period of time.
Well, I hope they come to learn, and leave more educated than they were when they first came in.
You would like to think so, right?
Say what?
You would like to think so, because another thing I wanted to bring up real quick, some of us are in other communities as well, lesser communities that are just, I think, are just cesspools. They're basically rabid theist and militant atheist, right? They add nothing to a conversation. The people that are in there basically have no idea how to even have a conversation. They're wrong across the board. I mean, it doesn't matter what the hell they're talking about. Every time they say something, it's just like, no, that's not correct. They're cesspools. They do memes. They troll.
Yeah, I call them basic bitch atheists.
That's fine. Whatever. I call them Stepford atheists, but yeah, they seem to be finding their way over to the great debate community. So my mods need to be hyper vigilant because we have people posting things with no comments on them. No header, just outright just meme shit. I don't want any of that stuff. I don't want politics. I don't want people arguing. Was it okay to have the Iraq War? That has nothing to do with the GDC. Okay, I mean, fascinated by it. Other people can talk about it in their hangouts, do what you want, but in the forums, that it's not appropriate to the GDC. But my moderators have to kick it up a notch for that.
One thing, I definitely do not want to delve too deep into politics, but I do want to ask about this. The problem of evil, especially as it comes to all these people getting shot in churches now. You had Dylan Ruth, and then you had this recent one. And even in the more recent one, you had an 18-year-old and a 18-month-old and a 5-year-old shot, which is crazy. I just don't know how people in that particular faith hold on to such faith when something like this can happen to innocent children in a church. If the one place, the one sanctuary that I would suspect that this deity, if we're talking about this deity would protect, would be children in a church or people in the church praising him. And what good can come from something like this, for 50 people being shot in a church like dogs?
It's got a way on the theist mind. I have no question. I know theists that wrestle with these things. But what bothers me more than that, MP? I mean, a theist who wrestles with this, I think, is legit, and they can come to terms with it. Whatever. I'm not ever going to discount somebody's faith. What bothers me is when you have people in politics using it as some kind of political gain, right? Somebody says, we need to pray for these people because, this is what atheism does, or something like that. That's what I draw the line and say, you know what, you're a disgusting, vile human being. To use a tragedy for your own political agenda, that's where you can go fuck off.
Did you guys see Shani for Christ video?
I don't watch her. I can't watch her.
I don't watch her.
She's a train wreck.
Yeah. I ran across one of her videos and she talked about how the shooter, what's his name, Devin, the guy
Kelly.
That basically there were reports that he was an atheist, and so she was saying that atheists need to owe up to this.
But that's the problem. It's a lie, because both the shooters in the churches were both theists, hardcore Christian theists. Dylan Ruth was not an atheist by any means. Right. He was,
and even if it was, it wouldn't matter.
Wait, you're saying Devin Kelly was a theist?
No, I'm saying Dylan Ruth was a theist, and Devin Kelly, they said he was a theist. Most people are saying he was a theist. I've not heard any reports saying he was an atheist. I've heard that he actually went to a church.
I've heard reports that, okay, first off, he did a.
I heard he was an atheist. I've seen it around.
He did vacation Bible school, but this was back in 2013. 4 years ago, and I read reports from friends saying that he was the kind of atheist who would post about his atheism online. So
maybe that might be no. That
makes me think that he was likely an atheist.
Well, I think he was probably an atheist or cultural Christian.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
He made some Facebook posts.
Yeah, but again, why does it matter?
He made some
his theological stance does not matter.
No, it doesn't.
What he did, and that's what I'm saying. The fact that we're even arguing whether he was or wasn't shouldn't matter. What we should argue is people that are arguing whether he isn't or not. They need to shut the fuck up.
Right.
Because that is annoying. That is disrespectful to the people that died. His theological stance should have no bearing on the crime that he committed.
But we know that usually doesn't matter in these particular cases. And let's just be honest, 99% of these things that happen are committed by people who believe in a God.
Yeah,
the small minority of these things that do happen and maybe that have been committed by atheists are kind of similar to society. Most people believe in a God, so most people who are going to do these horrible things happen to believe in a God. It has no bearing on whether who's going to do it or not. It just has to be a consequence of their belief system.
Right, and only if they have the only time they should talk about if they're Christian or atheist if there's men's involved where this was part of their crime. If they say, "Look, I'm going to go kill people in the name of God," then it's appropriate to bring religion into it. Or if somebody says, "Look, life has no meaning because we're all just a bunch of chemicals or whatever," some atheist thing, whatever, and they go kill people, then you can bring it into it, right? But even still, it doesn't mean that all of atheism is wrong or all of Christianity is wrong.
No, I mean nothing to that. It's like, for instance, remember when the abortion doctors were getting shot by the fundamentalists, Christian fundamentalists, and we all knew that they were Christian and they were killing, sniping out doctors, but that it had no, it didn't impugn all of Christianity because it was the Christians who were arresting them and prosecuting them and sending them to the death penalty. So,
but I think their faith was pretty relevant though to their behavior.
Well, that's why it's relevant to talk about in that specific case, right? It was motivated by an ideology. Right. And that's why, look.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hear me?
Yeah, phone quake.
You're breaking up a little bit. Go ahead, Jay.
See if this is
you're breaking up a lot. No.
Is this better?
A lot. Talk.
Yeah, we just had a phone quake too.
It's roboting like a mofo. You need to practice back in. But like I was saying, unless these things have a reason behind it, that I don't think they should be political fodder when they have these types of travesties, right? I don't like people using these things for a political agenda and for like an ideological argument. And people will say, what bothers even more when people say, well, atheism is an ideology. Well, in this particular case, you can fuck yourselves because, atheism is an ideology when you hold to a particular belief system. And
yeah, that's true.
The belief that God does not exist. Well, I don't see many people going around going, "Hey, God doesn't exist, so let me kill you." I don't see how that follows from there.
Yeah, let me kill all the Christians for this thing. I don't believe it. I don't. Yeah. But don't get me wrong. I think are there people out there? Because I remember there was the case of the atheist guy who did kill something like a couple of Muslims or something like that. But that was like a very rare case where somebody actually professing atheism saying, "I did this," because
but that's because of anti-theism. That's probably not because of atheism.
That's true. It's probably more anti-theism.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead, Jade.
He did make some posts on Facebook that where he said he was an atheist, talked about atheism. That's completely irrelevant. If you look at this guy's history, he has had mental problems and problems with violence going back to high school. The guy escaped from a mental institution at one point. The Army sent him to prison. The Air Force, not the Air Force sent him to prison for violently attacking his wife and his stepson. He broke his stepson's skull.
Jesus.
Arrest. Yes, he broke. He was a baby, a little baby.
He's not exaggerating.
Yeah, no, we all agree. I don't think anybody in here would say that his theological position was relevant to him. His crimes.
What the fuck?
But but the point I'm making is that in this particular case, it didn't make any difference what his theological position was. We're talking about someone who was deeply disturbed for a very long time, and the question I would ask is not what his religious beliefs were, or for all we know, they may have changed back and forth. People who are mentally unstable, it often does.
Jade, I don't mean to interrupt you, but sound issues.
Your sound is so bad, Jade. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
You know what? I'm getting tired anyway, so I think I'll just kind of quit for a while. And
we're gonna call it quits. I think my voice is shot, honestly, because of me screaming at my roommate.
Yeah.
Well, so what happened? You guys were in the shower. Your swords crossed.
Hey,
around your neck. I heard the story. It was kind of crazy.
Not on the stream, man. Not on the stream.
Yeah, what happens offline stays offline. Okay, we don't go into that ton of detail on here. No, I was not in the shower. I understand water conservation, but this whole shower with a friend only works in my case if she's a hot blonde. Other than that, I don't really fall into that.
Oh, you're into blondes?
At this point, my age, blonde, brunette, redhead, bald, it don't matter. It just doesn't.
Oh, you're full of shit.
But anyways, I explained it earlier. MP. The guy when he grabbed me though, he literally grabbed like this, and actually this hand, I just took him. I took his wrist down like this, and then I put him in a bar lock like this. So I had him down on the ground with like this, so he couldn't go anywhere.
What the hell was he waiting?
I had his arm like this.
Hold on. Just to be clear, you were butt naked on his back because you just came out of the shower, holding him down, huh?
I came out from peeing, not the shower. I don't know where you got the shower from. I zipped myself, but I had beer in hand because but the beer was actually pretty much empty, and I dropped my beer when I went up. Handling? Yeah, unfortunately, because I should have not, but whatever. He did germaphobe. That would have been the icing on the cake, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, all right, let's call it quits, guys. Again, I'm sorry my voice was kind of so shot, but we talked about talking this hangout, so we got through the title. We're not clickbaiting, but yeah, I'm going to be amazed to the end of time that this just poll that I had, that 66% thinks this is a fallacy. I'm just amazed.
I'm gonna start sharing with you guys the polls that I've taken from the conspiracy theorist community.
I'd look at them. Let me show you guys the poll here. I'm putting the live feed. This is the poll that we're talking about. Go comment on it, because if you guys think this is a fallacy, I want to know why. Because what definition are you using that nobody else is using? Because I don't see a fallacy, appeal to authority fallacy in this at all. Like, not even close. I think people are misreading it, but
yeah, you worded it pretty carefully too. I mean,
I'm not even up on all the arguments and
I blame illiteracy.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's just when I first looked at it, it does seem like an argument from authority. It does, but when you actually read through it, then you can see it's actually not. I think that's what happened. Yeah. People just probably get a cursory read and just made the decision based on that.
Yeah, and that's probably true, but the problem is they didn't leave an explanation, so I have no idea what the reasoning was. And since I don't know most of the people in there, I don't know them well enough to even think. Now, when I see somebody like Be Thou Thy Vision, her name's Sharon, I know she's the youngest creationist. I've known her for a very long time. So I'd expect her to misread it or to say that it's false, even though she can't explain why. Right? Because she's a younger creationist. She's just going to say, "Oh, well, no, it's the theory of evolution is not more likely to be the confirmed model that explains biodiversity." But that's because she doesn't understand science or reason, right? But I tell you what, when you're on the same page as the younger creationist or flat earther, you might want to check your position. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I got a question about that.
Maybe
I asked this in another hangout. Started that flat earther crap?
Yeah.
Because we had a little conversation about it in Sam's room.
Sean G.
Who?
Sean G. I think that's his username.
He's a flat earther, yeah. What about him?
No, he just started that and people just caught on.
No, flat earth's been around a while.
Oh,
okay. Initially, flat earth came a little more around because it was actually they were trying to come up with ways for people to show how to do an argumentation. They said, okay, what's the most fucked up, stupid thing we could ever argue against? And it got to be flat earth. And yet they were putting forth all these arguments, and some idiots who don't understand these things took them to be legit arguments and ran with them. And now it's a cult movement.
And they still use their GPSs, I take it?
Sure. That's by cell phones, towers.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. When you find a flat earther that knows physics or science, I would love to meet them, because I have yet to find one. Not a single fucking one.
Yeah, because one of the things when I was taking networking classes, one of the things if you're setting up a wide area network over Wi-Fi, not only do you have to take into account buildings, structures, stuff like that, you have to take into account curvature, the curvature of the Earth. So you have to take that into.
Yeah, you also got time delays. I can't remember the exact terminology. I knew it back in the day, but well, you have GPS coming in an incidental direction, and then you have it coming in from another side, and so there's a time delay between the two.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of what it's called. They're called something raised, but Hogtie Champ would know. He knows. I can't remember what the fuck it's called. I just talked about it not too long ago, but anyways. All right, guys, let's call it quits. I want to thank people that have been listening. Somebody became a Patreon today. I don't know who it was. I just saw it. Jay Lee, thank you, Jay Lee. Appreciate it. I know things have been up in the air with this whole ad fucking revenue crap, and obviously it's affected a lot of people. But I do appreciate any Patreon, $1, $5, $10, $50. I have a few of those, but I think that's excessive. But the ones that I know do that, I know at least are not poverty stricken. So, but even $1, $2, it means a lot. So if you want to be a Patreon, I'm trying to get more product out there. I'm trying to get more hangouts. I'm trying to get more guests. I want to earn it by Patreon, right? So, all right, guys. So I'm gonna give Jay the last word. So Jay, take the last word and take us out.
Who, me? I don't have a last word. I'm just.
You get a last word.
Is the last word.
The original.
The original? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.